spice up your life.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. MPs are now threatening to remove Public Service Cabinet Secretary Justin Muturi from office following allegations of inciting Kenyans against the government. The MPs have asked Muturi to resign or they'll move a motion of impeachment against him, led by National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah and his minority Junet Mohammed. They said it was absurd to see a CS who always holds meetings with the president and his cabinet colleagues publicly complain about the abduction of his son without stating reasons.
And it is sad, Honorable Speaker, that today we even have cabinet secretaries who get tempted to playing to the public gallery, excite emotions on the basis of ethnicity and regions they come from, inciting communities against communities.
I can't just say my son was arrested by so and so. Give the reasons why he was arrested. And then why do you wait for 7 months so that you tell Kenyans why your son was arrested? Why don't you tell them the day he was released?
They accused Muturi of fueling ethnic hatred following his statement on Sunday, calling on him to resign from government and give opportunities to others who are ready to serve the nation.
The honorable thing to do is, if you feel the ministry you are serving in is too small for you and you are too big for that ministry, simply resign. If you think, Honorable Speaker, that you are reassigned to a ministry where you are not able to extort money from people, and you know if you are about to be fired, don't pretend that you are either resigning or asking to be fired.
So if you behave in a very tribalistic manner, you behave in an awkward manner, then nothing stops us from filing an impeachment motion and removing you from office, Mr. Speaker.
And the statement by the leaders of the majority and minority factions in Parliament come after Majority Leader the Chief Whip Silvanus Osoro had previously threatened to move a motion of impeachment against Muturi, demanding that he apologizes or resigns. The Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers has issued a 1-week ultimatum for the government to disburse funds to schools. Kuppet said failure to do so, that will force head teachers to close the institutions to avoid the wrath of students. The union's acting Secretary General Moses Nthirima said failure by the government to disburse the required funds has crippled operations in many institutions, making learning difficult.
Schools are also reporting increasing insufficiencies by the Ministry of Education in meeting its obligations for textbooks, medical insurance and other costs for which free day secondary grants are retained. So much money is retained. So what we are saying is that we are demanding that the government remits the capitation to schools within 7 days, failure to which we shall ask principals to close the schools.
Nthirima also called on the government through the Ministry of Education to address the challenges facing grade 9 students, including the shortage of textbooks, classrooms and teachers, wondering why the government did not consider transferring grade 9 to secondary schools.
Classrooms in high schools have been left empty. The teachers have been left idle, the most qualified teachers, and particularly those who are in sciences. Things like laboratories have nobody now to use, sports equipment, but now they find it prudent to push them into primary schools because of fear of capitation. So we are urging the government to look at how to deal with the junior secondary.
Still on matters education, universities won't demand fees from new students until a case challenging the annulment of the new university funding model is determined. The Vice-Chancellor's Committee, led by the Chairperson Professor Daniel Mugendi, said the exemption will only apply to first and second-year students. Mugendi said the move will enable seamless studies for first and second-year students affected by the court ruling. The model looks at various parameters before determining the amount of fees payable by a student, including poverty levels and the cost of their courses. Last December, that is, the High Court declared the new university funding model unconstitutional. That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
102.5 SpiceFM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people, and we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing politics of conmanship, and even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. And hii mambo utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you very much, Eric, and it's good to be at the Situation Room.
Always a pleasure coming here. This is the most challenging interview panel in Kenya. You guys are very well informed, and as you can see, Charles today, very philosophical.
To be poor in this country is the greatest sin you can commit, not just from a legal perspective, but from life generally. It is very, very skewed.
We've just heard on the floor of Parliament, just most recently, a leader within the ODM saying that Sisi ni ng'ombe is a baba.
Yeah.
Which means that you are willing to be milked dry.
Hapo.
You cannot force me to believe. I'll give way. If it's a land that I'm told to return to you, I will. Okay? Because the court has said so. But I'll continue saying, watu wamenirusha. That's all that I'm doing.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
One of the things that I hate in our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state officer, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can't run away with it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that, because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
If you go out of this country and come back the same person, then you have a problem. Buy land, 1 million. Put it there for 5 years. What's the purpose?
It'll have increased in value.
No, that's the thing. That's darkness. That's an eclipse. You don't do that.
I hope you don't believe that a hustler is a poor person, or that all hustlers are poor. I've seen that conversation.
Tell us, who is a hustler?
Who is a hustler? Hustler is a person who is making a living through hard work.
Corruption in Kenya is a political accusation. The people who are actually corrupt are not pointed fingers at.
Kenya is not free. Kenya imeshikwa na mateka. It's under siege.
Have you seen that lodge on Nyeri Road? Very high fence. You can't even
windows
sleep inside.
Up near the ceiling.
Yes. And if you walk there at midnight, you see bats the size of cows.
And when it rains, it doesn't rain on that building.
Yes.
When you're at All Saints and it's raining, it doesn't rain on that building.
The things people will believe.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
When you're impeached, you're impeached. When you're sentenced, you're sentenced.
Madam Chief Justice.
Until the sentence is set aside.
Ukibeba vitu kwa roho utakufa. If you carry things in your heart, you will die.
The reason for which you went to school and then gathered experience, that reason must be paid for.
All right.
Oh, okay.
DC level.
Shape up or ship out.
Levels don't change.
No.
See,
It's about shipping out. You know my business partner here. Shipping out.
Are we talking about the ship in the bathtub? Or
the ship man?
One of Talabu used to tell us a story of they were in school and they've been told to write composition about a ship. His classmate raises a hand. Teacher, are you talking about the ship or a ship goat?
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
3, 2.
Everybody, welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Nyeri Latifa, Muga, Madam Du, nimesalamia wote sana.
Tumepokea salamu, asante sana.
Hapa Garissa today the weather is very good, only that baridi inatupeleka mbio sana.
baridi ni degree ngapi hapo?
Hata sijui lakini madam tunakauka sana.
If you want to follow the money trend, you've got to think like a thief to be able to catch that thief.
A slap from a friend is better than a kiss from an enemy. You remember the kiss of Judas Iscariot? Iscariot.
Yes.
Is the one that imetuweka kwa hii mashida yote na mataabu kwa sababu of that kiss. Yet the slap of Jesus Christ when he slapped those guys wenye walikuwa wanauza mboga ndani ya kanisa took them to heaven.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Hiya. Welcome to Friday. Have a look at what's happening on the streets this morning. We're likely to see a lot of outbound traffic getting into the weekend. And really, at this point, nothing much happening on these streets. The folks are getting where they need to go real fast and in a hurry. We're already seeing a smidgen of traffic coming off of Wairimu, heading out towards Chiromo. So there's a little bit of that outbound. Apart from that, everybody else is getting where they need to go. Eastern Bypass looks good. It also looks good on Mombasa Road, heading out to the CBD. Nothing much clicking off of Jago Road for now, heading out towards Landis, but we're going to keep an eye on all of this and we're going to talk through the morning. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's the 17th of January. It is the second proper Friday of the week. And it's our final conversation for this week of Kenya's biggest conversation. And I say to you, good morning. Hi,
good morning. How are you?
I'm fine.
It's a Friday. It's a Friday day. Yeah.
It's a Friday day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sisi, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I am well.
Why are you speaking in staccato?
Well, because I am enunciating what I am saying for the sole purpose of clarity.
For whom? Yourself or others?
This is me having fun.
Oh,
you
right.
You are speaking as though AI has done that thing on you.
It is not my fault that the AI that you use is outdated.
Hey,
we are sorry, Bas.
We are sorry. To the jokes.
I understand jokes, and in this case, I think you are part of the joke.
Wow.
You opened that door.
And closed that door, CT.
Yeah, I know. I'm in the presence of crazies this morning, but hey, good morning, guys. Karibuni sana. So we're getting into. You need deliverance. Let's just put it that way. You asked me how I am. I'm fine.
How you do?
I'm fine. I'm fine. I feel as though I didn't sleep enough, and I slept for 1, 2, 3, 4. I slept for 6 hours, but I feel as though it's not enough. I don't know why.
Tell us why.
I don't know, maybe I was just too busy during the day and, all sorts of things happening, click. But anyway, we're getting into it.
this morning, and let's see what the day has to offer, shall we? All right, so it is Healthy Friday, and in our Healthy Friday discussion today, we will be looking at mental health. It continues to be an issue, but we're looking at mental health in boys versus girls, and we'll talk with Mehreen Farouk, who is a consultant clinical psychologist at the Aga Khan University Hospital. That will be our conversation at 7. And then at 8 o'clock, Professor Noah Midamba is the Senior Associate Global Center for Policy and Strategy. Which way forward for education? We'll have that conversation at 8. It is still a big issue. There are many things. This past 3 weeks, actually, coming in from the end of December, rather even before that, I think over a month now, there's never been a day where there has not been something coming out of the education sector that needs to have our eyes open. And again, we're looking even in the headlines today, and education is already playing a starring role. So we'll have that conversation with Professor Midamba at 8 o'clock, which way for education. And then finally at 9, the Senator Kisi County, Richard Onyonka, will be here at 9. The role of public citizenry in government. So what do we do? The role of the citizenry in government. What do we do? That'll be the conversation that we'll have with Senator Onyonka at 9. All right, for now, let's take a quick look at what's happening with the weather. What will the skies pretend? It was a bit chilly, it's going into the sun. What's happening with January weather? We'll take a look at that and come back and say hello to all of you. Tell us where you're tuning in from, what you expect for the day. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Hi everyone, you may have heard about Cradle's first annual Study Abroad conference happening on January 18th in Nairobi and on January 27th in Eldoret. Can you tell us what students can expect?
University of Limerick is one of the large government-led, research-led universities in the Republic of Ireland. 97% of our graduates are in employment upon graduation. All of our undergraduate students do a 6 to 9 month work placement as part of their programme, and it's paid and it's in an area relevant to your studies. And our most popular programmes are in science, engineering, business, humanities, health sciences, and arts, humanities and law.
That sounds fantastic. So everyone make sure to attend Cradle's first annual Study Abroad conference at Gallant Mall Parklands in Nairobi and at Eka Hotel in Eldoret. Make sure to register by visiting www.cradle.com, that's CRAYDEL.com, or call 0799 000 444, 0799 000 444.
The weather with SpiceFM.
Yes, indeed, the weather this morning in Nairobi, a little bit chilly out, but highs of 23 degrees and lows of 14 degrees. In Kakamega, highs of 30 degrees and lows of 14 degrees. In Mombasa, highs of 32 degrees and lows of 25 degrees. Perfect weather to go swimming, that is in Mombasa. And in the lakeside city of Kisumu, highs of 32 degrees and lows of 17 degrees. And in Nakuru city, highs of 27 degrees and lows of 11 degrees. But across the borders to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, highs of 22 degrees and lows of 7 degrees, and in Mogadishu, Somalia, highs of 7 degrees, highs of 31 degrees, and lows of 23 degrees. In Paris, France, highs of 6 degrees and lows of 0 degrees, and in China, highs of 4 degrees and lows of negative 4 degrees. That is the weather. These are good morning.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
This morning, let's say hello to you this morning. Tell us where you're tuned in from. It's a big Friday greeting.
Yes, and we start with R. Stevo Simple Boy amefanya nini? Tell us, R. And Don Sab as well is locked in. Do I know Kaongo, not Kasongo? Don Sab, who are you referring to? Ndu. There's a question you've been asked there. Ndu asked. You ask me if I know Malawian language.
Dennis, do you know the Malawian language?
No, but I would like to. So, Don Sabwa, fly me to Malawi.
Blantyre is beautiful.
Yeah. And Robert Mboga, I want to fly there flat.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Robert Mbogo. I just want to go business. You know how to fly business.
I got it.
Robert Mbogo, good morning from Mombasa. Musi Els, good morning, Kenya. These politicians just out of their mouths. Our Musi Els, we hear you. Agola. Otherwise,
Agola.
Otherwise, Tukofiti. George Adimo, good morning, Spice FM. Listening from Rongo, leadership reduced to mediocre. The king is seriously naked. Moses Mwangi, good morning, Musketeers. It's a good morning to say the tide of change in Kenya is here to stay. And Chris Moore, good morning. It's a Friday. Love you back. And Alex Gatoto, happy Friday, Spice FM team. Tuning in from South B, our neighbors. Looking forward to today's show. Karibu sana. Jamie Munuthi, good morning. Situation, good morning to you. Erica Ward, good morning to you too. And Joe Mungai from Bonny Lake, hello, happy weekend. Free from abductions and punitive taxes. Joe Mungai. And Pabdindu, Tell City, Uganda is the second youngest worldwide with median age of 16 after Niger with one of the longest serving presidents since 1986.
CT, Uganda is the second youngest worldwide with a median age of 16 after Niger with one of the longest serving presidents since 1986. Yoweri Tibuluburwa Rutsabariwa.
Now, Pabdi, thank you very much,
I've
Pabdi.
just followed the instructions.
Yes, exactly. And Pabdi, we thank you for that contribution. And we have let it be known that indeed, one of the unique things about Uganda, it has one of the longest serving presidents on this particular continent. And yes, it has, after Niger, it has the youngest median age of 16, which means all the old people have died.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
Good morning, Spice FM team. Happy weekend. We're moving on swiftly. Tibbs Muga. Hello, Princess Ndu, City and Aseto. Is Kaboko ready to go head to head with Kenyans on X and Elon and Zuckerberg with all that nomination bravado swearing?
Well,
good question. Time will tell. Ongany Malala, good morning, Team Spice. Continue doing the good work. Blessed Friday. Thank you very much, Ricardo Spice Malaria. Good morning, Kings and Queens. Kitengela Iko Locked. Karibu Sana, KNF, Soft Tech Graphics. Top of the morning to you, Spice FM family. Let's get this day going. Kabisa, Abid Abdallah. Good morning, Spice. Shikamo from Mombasani. And Sandra Sharia. Buenos dias, Kenya. Rahim Tula Omar from Colchester as usual. Government wants social media companies to open offices in Kenya. Question is, will people be paid? We know the story surrounding that. And Pan-African Nation, I think these shows should be streamed on X too. Yes, that is happening. We will make sure you get it because X is the epicenter of Kenyan politics online. Sandra Sharia, Hola Kenya, Newton Emase, good morning. Watching from Nyakach TVC, Hesbon Sidon Ndu Habari.
Mzuri.
City, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam, brother.
Dennis Oyaure, Ahinya. Greetings from Europe, Kisumu. And Benedito, good morning from Doha, wishing you a happy Friday. Sandra Sharia, saludos. Good morning, Power Team. Have a blessed day and weekend ahead. That is Kawira Naivasha. And Omwene Bokenge Nimulola at Okechi. Good morning, Spice Team. And everybody else who's listening, Karibuni Sana, and good morning to you too.
Karibuni, everybody, as we're getting into it this morning. And City, our proverb from today, for today. Do you say from today? Anyway.
It's both right.
They're
Even
both
if you
correct.
say, yes, they're both. Sentencingly, it is correct.
in syntax dome, it works. And we're still in Uganda.
All right.
That one. Right. Even the king needs to be taught.
It's true. It's true.
Brief and to the point.
Kabisa.
Kabisa. Even the king needs to be taught.
Yes.
I don't even think we need to say anything more to that.
No, we do not.
Let's look into the headlines, shall we? On the front page of the Standard this morning, MPs live up to their laundry tag yet again. Members of the National Assembly had no problem giving Ruto the nominees he picked without much consideration, putting to question their role in the appointing process, even as the president hopes the team will not only steady the Kenya Kwanza ship, but also deliver the plan. were you expecting that they would say, actually, no, we reject you nominee?
Do we still have the plan, though?
Well, let's see. The JSC is to consider plea to kick out Comet and 8 judges. There has been a lot of movement in this sector for the last few weeks, and from calls from the president of the LSK to weed out, corrupt judges and, off-color, sketchy-looking individuals and sketchy-behaving individuals. There has been a triple team of lawyers saying, you know what, there's rot in the judiciary, deal with it. JSC has said, you know what, guys, enough. Let's take a look into what's happening here and let's see if we can sort it out. So they're set to meet. And the headline on The Nation is interesting. Dennis will tell us about that because that's what is front and center of The Nation headline. KCSC graduates in limbo over varsity placements. We've had almost 1 million KCSC graduates. Now they're looking towards, of course, going to higher learning, of which 264,000 then qualified for university. Inflations. Nigerians change diet. I'm telling you, it's not a small hala. It's actually not Nigerians, it's Nigerians.
What are they now eating?
Not Nigerians, but the folks from Niger.
Yes.
Yeah,
My question is not who. What are they now eating?
I'll tell you in just a moment, but just know that the diet is changing because food not there. It's on page 33 of the business. Let me just tell you very, very quickly what that is. Am I blind?
Page 22.
It's 22. Because there's no page 33 here today. I was like, what's going on? Anyway, let me just tell you that really quickly. Inflation forces Nigerians to change eating habits. In Niamey market, folks are looking towards a sack of rice, a staple out of reach for many in Niger due to recent inflation. The prices of local food are falling, but those for imported products are still high. We must remember that most of West Africa is currently in the Harmattan season, dry, windy, dusty, very cold. It's a year since the lifting of heavy sanctions on Niger imposed by ECOWAS to protest the overthrow of civilian President Mohamed Bazoum in 2023. So there's very little food coming from outside. And so they're saying, you know what? It's no longer a question of preparing 2 large meals a day. It's a question of surviving on one. More details of that. Abductee, I was beaten, stripped and starved. Bernard Kavuli, one of the 5 abductees released last week, went to church to thank God for his safe release, telling horror stories of his experience with his kidnappers. Government hand in tea firm woes. Will this thing ever end?
No.
This issue of, can you pay the farmer directly? Can you remove the middleman? Can you make sure that Kenya Tea is actually paying its farmers well when it's sold for so much on the international auction?
Should we not ask the question, why is it that we have a system that has persisted? Why is it that we also have cries from farmers that has persisted? Was there a time when this wasn't the case? The answer is yes.
I mean, goodness.
Was there a time when farming tea was considered one of the best things anybody could do?
Oh, yes.
The answer is yes.
I have a friend who, he traveled over the Christmas and he was, of course, helping his mum on the tea farm, and they pick tea the whole day. They take it to the auction in the evening because, of course, it's got to go the same day for it to remain fresh. And I just thought about the money that they pay the tea pickers, very little money, but then the money that they also they sell to a middleman, and then it's ridiculous. And we're talking about acres and acres of tea. Anyway, we'll look into that story. Badi walks a tightrope as he proposes to increase budget to 4.3 trillion shillings. Treasury has laid an ambitious budget. It hopes will not just be favorable to Kenyans, but also deliver the government's developing agenda. However,
where's the money going to come from again?
Sasa, why are you asking hard questions and you've not had coffee, CT?
Okay. I will
just take it like that.
Well, that's the first part of the question. I'll withhold the second part for later.
We'll tell you the story, Abi?
Yes.
Okay, good. Go.
Yeah, and let's go to the Daily Nation and the story of the day, judiciary under siege. Now, this is what started as social media-fueled protest against alleged graft in one of Kenya's most hallowed institutions has snowballed into a push for removal of some of the country's most senior judges. Now, the Judicial Service Commission is now set to convene and discuss the elephant in the room, petitions for removal of judges following months-long attacks by a section of senior lawyers and litigants over alleged corruption in the corridors of justice. Remember, the lawyer Nelson Harvey has been pushing these, and let's just see how the trajectory this will take. And alarm as hundreds fail to report to varsities over funding crisis. Are we surprised? Personally, no. Many first and second year students in public universities are yet to report to various campuses for second semester as uncertainty persists over release of government funds for their upkeep, despite the Higher Education Loans Board holding billions of shillings. A court ruling that nullified the new funding model last December has frozen disbursement.
Why is there alarm? Why are we surprised?
We're not.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to go to school with that headline.
Yeah.
Or rather, is it go to school or go to town?
Go home. Yeah.
Town, it's town.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's school in town. Anyway, look, why are we surprised? If you take one and you add one, you're going to get two.
Yeah.
So why are we surprised that, people are going to fail to appear in school when the funding model is flawed and people can't get money to go to school?
The alarm was sounded a long time ago.
Yeah. For goodness sake.
Yeah.
Just when there was talk of what it is that the new system was going to be, people said, wait, this thing isn't adding up.
Yeah.
And this thing of algorithming people and figuring who paid what, it was a bit of a problem because you had siblings being put into different groups and you're saying, wait
from the same family, same father, same mother, they live in the same
house. The
house.
alarm bells were ringing from day one.
Yeah.
So if the alarm bells were ringing, we don't know whether anything was done to address the alarms and the bells and the ringing. So here we are. Indeed, 1 + 1 does equal 2.
Yes,
2, yeah, but I think 1 + 1 in those that bear responsibility is 11. Doesn't make sense.
It's true because at this rate, you say you don't know if anything was done. Nothing was done.
Nothing was done.
This model was just being looked at, traipsing up and down the runway, going back, coming forth, going back, coming forth. Nothing was done. No, people complained. They said, okay, they'll relook it. I don't know how long they're taking to just look at this thing. But what did you expect was going to happen?
Yeah.
It's flawed from the get-go. People will not be able to go to school. And now we're saying the alarm bells are ringing.
What you're saying, it begs even the larger question. Why are we changing the model that existed?
In the first place, something was working. The person who said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yes.
We're not talking out of time.
Why were you overhauling a system? Why didn't you tweak it to meet the needs that were then? Exactly. But you had to overhaul it.
Yeah.
And the overhaul has a cost.
Yeah.
A huge cost.
Come on.
Then it has a learning component.
Yeah.
Then it has a getting used to what you've learned component. Then there's a get to implement component. Hey.
Come on. Development doesn't mean that you take what was there and then you scrap it completely.
Yeah.
Development by definition means getting better.
It would appear that one of the things that the KK government seemed to have understood by its bottom-up approach to things was scrap everything and bring in something new.
Toss it out completely.
And remember, even as we talk about this funding model, there is a committee that was formed. They delivered their report.
It's a presidential working party.
Exactly. Yeah, there is actually the presidential working party. Then there is another committee.
This 129 member committee was now put together to now try and figure out
the moment you hear that number. Do you think anything is going to come out of this? 129 to do what? Think 129. Okay, you have universities and you have universities councils and you have senates.
Yes.
Okay. Let's take for instance the university has 3,000 students. Just for example.
Yeah.
How many members of the Senate do you think there are? You think they're,
for goodness sake.
You think they're even 20? No.
A university senate does not have
council. Do you think they're 20? No. So the 129 is for what exactly?
You see, under the plan, we promised to create job opportunities. There you go.
Even if it's temporary. So
job opportunities.
Actually, no. You explain why you've done what you've done by giving it a tag, and the tag is job creation. I'm afraid job creation often applies to people who don't have jobs and have never had jobs. The people in these committees have jobs.
Okay.
There are people who've been working. They are not new in the job market. They're not part of that million people who enter, citizens who enter the job market every day. No. They are already the job marketeers. They're in it. So what is this new creation you're talking about?
Well,
City. Muturi continues to bear it all. Public Service CS says he became a victim of a political lynch mob following president heckling in Embu. Okay. And woman's journey of pain and resilience. The past 14 years have been tough for Joyce Ongombe, who is fighting for her life at Kenyatta National Hospital. That is on matters to do with health. And there was a police shake-up and transfers here and there. And Bungei moved in police shake-up. Adamson Bungei, the Nairobi police chief who led his colleagues in clamping down on protest last year, has been transferred following administrative changes made by Inspector General Douglas Kanja. But let's go back to this Muturi that it continues to bear it all. Let's just read that again. Public Service here says he became a victim of a political lynch mob following president's heckling in Embu. Days later, comes out to speak.
Nabado.
That's why we ask why now.
Exactly. Charles?
Business Daily. MPs push to pay rise shelved after Gen Z demos.
That's it?
Oh, yeah.
MPs are pushing for implementation of a salary increment frozen at the height of the youth-led protests in June 2024.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
But again, if you're talking about something which is not surprising, this is not surprising.
This is not surprising. It's actually, it's humorous.
It's not. We don't have money to pay debts. We don't have money to pay for capitation. We don't have money to cater for health services. We don't have money to cater for basics. The cost of living is still doing a thing. And the best thing that MPs can do that would help the citizenry is to pay themselves more.
Yes, no.
Yeah. In the excuse, they say, when we get this money, we come to your changos.
That thing should just stop immediately.
Which one? First of all, that kind of thinking, or to actually...
No, everything about it. That is nonsense. You don't start a trend. You don't encourage a trend. You don't fuel a trend. And then suddenly it is the citizens who want the money. Did the citizens start giving themselves money or asking money, or did the politicians begin giving people money?
For goodness sake.
Who started? This one, the chicken and egg situation, we know.
Yes.
The chicken laid the egg, so the egg didn't come after the chicken.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
41% of urban dwellers favor rent controls. 4 out of 10 Kenyans living in towns want the government to regulate rent to prevent arbitrary increases by landlords. Okay. Why Kenya Re plans return to India? Kenya Re will set up a liaison office in India, marking a return to the Asian country where it exited the crop insurance business 3 years ago. Why did it do that? Women assaulted by Super Metro bus crew awarded 420,000 shillings. Super Metro is a bus, matatu. Okay, there's a female passenger who was assaulted by a bus crew affiliated with the popular Super Metro Sacco 6 years ago. The court has said, pay her 420,000.
And then may that serve as a deterrent for you people who think you can just...
It's not enough. The people who perpetrated this crime, what happened to them? It's not enough.
It's not enough.
Paying fine is not enough.
Yeah.
No. No, that one, the people, even as we talk about the people who perpetrated the crime, did the passengers do something?
While you were sitting there and something was happening?
Just asking. Maybe they did. I don't know. Did they? Okay. Right. Top counties in borrowed share phone use revealed. Okay, let me just read this for you. Nyandaro, Nakuru led in non-owned phone use, borrowing, sharing of gadgets high in urban areas. Meaning, I have phone.
Oh, okay.
Remember, we used to have phone booths.
Yeah.
So, cell phone now becomes booth.
Right.
I have phone, but other people can.
Ukitaka kunipiga.
Yeah, you can call this number. And then
this time.
Yes, and then I go and look for that person who you've called on this particular number.
Interesting.
Okay? They also have a bang in the middle of the paper picture. They have Pastor Nick Correr. And the person who wrote this article begins it very well. The pastors don't look like pastors anymore. Well, there's a picture of the pastor in relaxed gear, and they're talking about the very thing we spoke about here, wanting to raise funds. It is actually fantastic when you think about it.
I think so. It's an amazing thing.
Yes, it is an amazing thing. All right. Nyandarua, Nakuru, and Laikipia counties have the highest population of residents using borrowed mobile phones in Kenya. A new survey of mobile phones and internet usage shows. Fresh data by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics shows that 22% of Nyandarua residents use mobile phones borrowed from neighbors, family, and friends. Yeah, okay, it's good, isn't it?
It is.
Siasa, top right-hand corner in burnt brown. What do we call it?
Sour. Burnt orange.
Burnt orange, okay.
Yeah, burnt brown would be a bit darker.
Okay, right. President Ruto's enemies now firmly with him in government. This is a misleading statement. This is politics. These people are not enemies.
Yeah.
They're not even opponents.
If you think they're enemies and that the thing they try to do on you actually work.
These people have the same interest.
Yeah.
It's just that at this particular point in time, the vehicles they've chosen to pursue these similar interests is different. They're not enemies. Yes. They have similar, identical, almost identical twin-like interests. So please, do not mistake it. Keep off our pay, lawmakers won. Just vetted salaries team. What are this here? Let me read this. MPs on Thursday approved President William's nominees to the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. Okay? Then, and MPs warned them not to meddle and reduce their perks.
While you're here.
We've said you joke with our pay. So I mean,
we've approved
the salaries that MPs and they fall under the purview of this body. They do. So please meddle by all means. Man 32 stabs wife to death, kills himself in an in-law's house.
Jesus, have mercy.
It's a good thing we're having a mental health
conversation today.
State House ghost workers exposed.
State House has ghost workers.
Actually, they're not the only ones who have ghost workers.
No, but I mean State House.
You know, I can give you facts and figures.
It's lovely.
Ghost workers, total number 17,000.
Really?
Ministries have 12,000. Commissions and independent offices 225. Public universities 1,885. Statutory authority 75. State House 156, Kenya Railways 1,200, Blue Economy 97, Lab Fund 10, KBC 231, Council of Governors 26, Muhoroni Sugar 12, Mary University 75.
Do you know what? You see all these ghost workers that are being paid every month. Gather all that money, mix them, gather them, you pay capitation for 2025.
That won't happen because, you see, when you make graft a national sport and a growth industry, then everybody at their little level is going to be involved in what they can do to also have their piece of the government pie. So they will collude and they will work together to ensure that that particular pie is not disturbed. There are very few entities in this country that don't have ghost workers. Very few. We keep pointing fingers at national institutions, but even private institutions have ghost workers. It is a thing with us. It's like ticks on a dog or ticks on a cow.
You know what? 17,000 ghost workers, let's just say that they were earning 25,000 shillings a month. And 25,000 we know is on the lower side. Do you know how much that is? That is 425 million shillings a month.
Yes.
Yeah.
425 million a month.
Yes, now do that per year.
For goodness sake.
Yeah, how many billions?
I don't even want to think about
billions. So I'm simply saying this, look, I wouldn't want to complain about issues of corruption at whatever level for the simple sake that we have embraced corruption. We have embraced wrongdoing. We have chosen that the path we'll follow to development is by doing wrong. So we all contribute to it at some level. You have a right to complain when you don't contribute to it. But if you do, don't complain.
Sorry, boss. So then we look at traffic.
Traffic and then weather.
We look at weather later, but let's look at traffic now because my head is starting to ache.
Yes.
It's just
achy to wheel. Welcome to Kenya.
My goodness. So many things happening. Think about that as we take this break. 425 million shillings a month. What could it do for Kenya today? Taking a look at traffic, and we'll be back right after this.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Are you a young person looking to unlock your potential?
All right, let's take a look at what's happening with traffic coming in to the top of the hour. A little bit of traffic moving in from the Thika Superhighway, but not too crazy. We're going to get towards the CBD soon enough. There is a little bit of that also coming off of Waiyaki Way, getting into the CBD. But Friday usually doesn't give us too much in terms of holdups anywhere. All right. Also, some movement coming off of Jago Road, getting towards Landis, and then off of Mombasa Road as well. We're fine. Getting into the city past Cabanas, we'll probably see a slowdown of that as we click into traffic hour. Let's talk SpiceFM KE on X. Hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.
Okay, so looking into some of these stories this morning and in more detail, the one that I wanted to tell you about, Badi walks a tightrope as he proposes to increase budget to 4.3 trillion, and you're asking, CT, where is that money going to come from? Well, let's see. The total budget right now, because we know that the budget planning process starts in September every year. Total budget proposed by Treasury, an increase of 500 billion shillings compared to the last one. Well, let me tell you, you see what they're looking for that money. You see these ghost workers, these 17,000 of them. You already see there's money there. I'm telling you, the money that you're looking for usually is right under your nose. This is an increase from last year's budget projections of 3.88 trillion. There were less than 4 trillion, but the plans were scuttled by protesters. Okay, that's according to this story. 749.4 billion shillings is the budget hole that the government hopes to fill through local and international borrowing. So, CT, you're asking where the money is going to come from? They intend to borrow it. Let's look at some more details about what will happen with the budgeting process in another, what month are we in? January, another 3 or 4 months, when now the budget will be read. And let's look at some numbers. 5.3% is the expected economic growth in 2025, up from 4.6% in 2024. 3% is the projected expansion of agriculture, largely driven by favorable weather conditions. 10 million is the estimated people living in informal settlements due to rapid urbanization. Biogas plants 300 to be constructed in counties as part of the Green Energy Plan. 344 billion shillings is the additional revenue that was expected to be raised from withdrawal Finance Bill 2024. Now, Kenyans should brace themselves for higher taxes in the next financial year, with the government seeking to increase the revenue collection target, which is expected to finance an expanded budget. So they say, look, we're going to increase the budget by 500 billion. Where's the money going to come from? 3 places: international borrowing, domestic borrowing, and taxes, increased taxes at that level. The National Treasury in new budget documents has set the target for the Kenya Revenue Authority at 3.018 trillion shillings over the 2025-2026 financial year, which is 14.7% higher than the 2.631 trillion that the taxman was expected to collect over the current financial year. The question is, did they collect that amount? 2.6 trillion? I don't think so. Total revenue, which includes revenues to ministries through levies and other fees, is expected to reach 3.516 trillion, which is 14.9% higher than the 3.06 trillion projected total revenues over this financial year. So, I mean, the push and pull here is that in order to fund development, in order to make sure that, the government can keep the lights on and the water flowing, essentially, is that you're going to need more money by 500 billion shillings to do that. And where is it going to come from? It's going to come from you and me.
Actually, this thing is a bit... It's a bit skewed. For this to work, this money comes from people. They need to be alive, actually. And apart from being alive, they need to be doing something that creates value in the economy, so that this thing that you're referring to called tax can actually work, okay? So in this story, is there anywhere where we're being told what it is the government is doing to inject capital, to inject money into the economy so that economic activity can be spurred? Is there anywhere where they're talking about this?
They're going to widen the tax base.
No. That's extraction. I'm talking about injection. What are they putting into the economy to ensure that there's something to extract? 1, 2, which should have been first actually, that people are actually alive so that you can extract from them. Because for people to work, they need to eat. For people to eat, they need to be able to afford to eat.
Let me tell you.
And if they don't eat, they will not be alive.
The government, in addition, the government may, not shall, may explore new markets through issuing Panda and Samurai bonds as part of instruments diversification and deficit financing options.
You know, my sister, there's something here. What's happening to you today?
Me?
Yes.
I don't understand.
Because I ask you a question and then you proceed to just answer your own questions.
But I'm telling you, are saying that what is the government going to do to inject?
Yes.
I mean, Treasury has said
that's not injection. That is extraction. When bonds are issued, the government is borrowing, so they're taking money.
I'm trying to help the government.
No. The economists who understand these things better than I at Treasury. Is it a reporting issue? Is it that it was stated what the government was going to do and somehow we didn't get it, or the reporter didn't understand and didn't report it correctly?
See, because now I know you, I understand what you're asking. Let me just tell you that sadly and unfortunately, where we should be looking at increased or extended investment, where we should be looking at money actually being put into the economy to drive industry and manufacturing, for example. Sadly, that is not the focus.
Incentives for industries to thrive, that we'll give you this rebate, we will not do this. For instance, we farmers, we are not going to tax tractors. Tractors just come in free. Those sort of things. But it'll be free for 6 months. That sort of thing. So that whatever business you're doing, you are encouraged to do it. We're encouraging you to pay. Pay with what?
And all I also hear is we are planning to expand the tax base.
Yes,
there is
so
nowhere where we're saying, because City, you're starting your business, we will make it easy for you. We will collapse all the bureaucracies that exist. We will actually remove some of the monies that you need to pay for.
We will send Hustler Funds officials to a county near you, and we will be talking to you and ensuring that, remember that group of people we sent out for KRA, will change whatever it is that we gave them as their mandate. They'll come and advise you on how to use money and point you to Hustler Fund so that the Hustler Fund can help you grow your business.
Hustler Fund, kazi?
It exists, yes.
I think it exists in the plan.
No, it exists. It's there.
Okay.
Yes.
I was just asking.
They want to make it a regular bank now. Or at least they want to make the things, charges, blah, 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 bank-like. I'm simply saying, look, we've understood you need money. Got it. Got it. Having gotten it, there's this bit of how to ensure that that money you want can actually arrive at you.
There's a very simple thing. There is no economy on this planet that has progressed and developed that has not made industry and manufacturing its number one priority. Nowhere. So
if you throw in commerce also, it helps. But again, maybe the person who wrote that article just missed that one out. I am certain, because I do know for a simple fact that people in Treasury know this better than I or you or Dennis.
Absolutely.
And the City, even as you said, people in Treasury do know that. There's one crisis that we continue to experience from this government, a communication problem. These things that they ought to be telling us, we are not hearing that, because all we hear Mbadi say is we will expand the tax bracket, we will borrow from domestic and international market. And borrowing domestically, what does that mean to UCT when you're going to get loan?
It means all the money I will have borrowed you have taken. That's what it means.
Yes.
And by the way, Dennis, I used to be like you. I used to think it's a that
insult loading.
No, it's not. I used to think that it is a communication problem. It's not. I no longer think that. It's a human resource problem.
Capacity issues.
You have an entire ministry that deals with information and you're telling me you don't know how to communicate. What?
Human resource problem.
It's a human resource problem. That one, this thing of it is the government can communicate. The government can communicate. How did this government get into power? They communicated effectively what is they wanted to do.
Yeah, Maliba says if you throw a stone, you could just hit a communication guy at State House. So
they trip over each other, literally. And then you're telling us they can't communicate. Right.
Can you tell us another story?
Yeah, let's go to the back page of the Daily Nation. And that talks about matters to do with education. Which one do I pick, on the right or the left? Both education, left. The Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers has issued a 7-day ultimatum to the Ministry of Education to release funds for basic schooling. Now, the union yesterday said failure to disburse the funds to schools would culminate in its officials advising head teachers to shut schools and send learners home. Kupe Deputy Secretary General Moses Nturima dismissed the announcement by Education Cabinet Secretary Julius Ogamba regarding the release of the money. There's 2 weeks since schools opened for the new academic year. The government has not disbursed funds, according to Nturima. Schools already face serious financial challenges. Principals cannot pay suppliers, contractors and school workers. Even student accommodation is a problem. We demand that the government remits money to schools in 7 days from today. Failure to do this will mean we advise the principals to close the schools. When we talk about matters to do with schools, it is something that is planned. It is the government that gives the education calendar. Yet, that entire planning on education matters is not followed by release of funds and capitation. Teachers are saying we will shut down the schools if we do not get the monies. Mbadi says wait until the 31st of January.
Why didn't they just open the schools on the 31st?
My brother, do you understand?
Yeah.
You see now, then all these fresh people are shouting, will not be shouting. Why? You tell them open schools, do everything, jumping up and down, people are shouting, people are distressed. Then you come and say, money will be ready on 31st. Then you would have open school on 31st and let everybody stay at home for another month.
Yes.
Why? Because what have you achieved?
So it's simple.
Very simple. You've had them in school for, by the 31st, you would have had them in school for 25 days. And there was frustration up and down. Suppliers can't be paid. Teachers are saying, what are we doing here? School heads are saying, we can't keep these kids in school. So you'd have kept them at home and then gotten back to school in February.
If you're just keen actually on the roads, yesterday I've been seeing students going back to school with their parents pretty much because they have been sent back home and asked to go with their parents to explain why they've not paid fees. That is the situation on ground. But that's in high school. Now let's go to university. Many first and second year students in public universities are yet to report to various campuses for the second semester as uncertainty persists over release of government funds for their upkeep, despite the Higher Education Loans Board holding billions of shillings, a High Court ruling that nullified the new variable scholarship and loans funding model last December has frozen disbursements, leaving many students unable to afford accommodation and meals even when allowed to continue studying with fees balances. Education kila mali imesambaratika.
Yes. It will sort itself out. Just give it time.
How city? How will it sort itself out?
Did I say I have a solution?
Oh.
I just made a statement.
Okay. Give us your story, City.
My story goes to workers. This is a story on page 4 and 5. And I read out the numbers for you. You know, these star people sometimes have interesting headlines. In the Siasa column, they have something called a short history of repression. And they have pictures of JM Karaoke, Tom Boyer, Robert Okoh, Pio Gama Pinto. Hey, my goodness gracious me. Individuals, anyway. That's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about in the state ghost workers. PLC report shows 17,000 ghost workers drawing hard-earned taxes. Control of Budget, Nyakango, has in numerous reports flagged the possibility of existence of ghost workers drawing salaries irregularly. So this is not something we don't know. The question that we want to ask is, it persists. Why does it persist? And if it persists, it is with whose collusion? People have to collude, okay? And then there's a sub-headline here. It says, why Kikuyus, Kalenjin still dominate public service? Is that really true? The Kikuyus and Kalenjin communities continue to hold lion's share of state jobs because government agencies do not heed advisories from the Public Service Commission. In the wake of glaring ethnic disparities at state jobs, the PSC has many times advised government agencies to take deliberate steps to accommodate all of the country's 45 ethnic groups. Now, they even give you numbers, okay? They talk about numbers of where people work and which ethnic group. I'm not going to read these things for a very simple reason. I don't see this as a problem. No. I see this as the key pointer to what it is that bedevils us and how it is that we view development. We seem to view development and political power and position with employment. If someone who is your person and speaks your language is in power, then the people who speak the language like you do, many of them must be employed. That's how we see it. And those in government have encouraged this because you do not see a situation where there's an encouragement for young people to think. There's a lot of talk about it, though, to actually look for ways of getting themselves employed by creating value that people can pay, or for growing the economy and for investing in it beyond talk and giving us supposed bodies that are supposed to help, but you never really quite see the results. Okay? Funds that are allocated, and most of which, when an audit is done, has gone anywhere and everywhere except where it was supposed to go. Yes. So this is not a problem of which community holds most jobs. No. It is a problem of what we believe ought to be representative of what happens when one of your own is in a position of authority. Now, this is a problem.
I see. So it doesn't matter who holds the position. What matters is if they're not getting what you think they should get as a result of being in that position.
Yes,
and then if they don't get it, then that's when you reserve the right to complain. I see.
Yes.
I see. Okay, well, let's continue with these conversations. I mean, just interesting looking at what is in the headlines. It does often seem as though there are very many negative things coming out. And I think that even though there are, we have to highlight them and we have to talk about them and we have to discuss them no matter what. All right, we continue with conversations on mental health in boys versus girls, and that's the conversation that we'll be having for Healthy Friday come into the 7 o'clock hour. Keeping it SpiceFM and the Situation Room. We'll be back and we wait and take in the news. Good morning, it's 7 a.m.
Hi everyone, you may have heard about Cradle's first annual Study Abroad conference happening on January 18th in Nairobi.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. The civil service has over 17,000 ghost workers benefiting from taxpayers' hard-earned cash. The report by the Public Service Commission shows State House for the second year now. KBC and Kenya Railways are among the top perpetrators. The new report shows Kenya Railways had as high as 1,261 staff mysteriously in the payroll, but not on the ground. The review established that whereas the Railways Corporation had 3,287 officers in the Bayo data, only 2,026 were in post. Kenya Broadcasting Corporation had 231 officers who are in the National Broadcasters Register but not in any post, yet they enjoy salaries. For State House, the number stood at 156 with the database recording 1,689, yet a head count only revealed there were 1,533 staffers. The signing of the Tax Amendment Act and the Tax Procedures Act by President William Ruto on December 11th last year has set the stage for significant changes in Kenya's tax regime. These amendments, effective from December 27th, 2024, have introduced revisions to key tax laws including the Income Tax Act, VAT Act, Excise Duty Act, Miscellaneous Fees and Levies Act, and the Tax Procedures Act. The revised laws are expected to increase VAT and excise duties, leading to higher costs for consumer goods and business operations. Products like sugar, alcohol and plastics will see excise duty hikes directly impacting prices for consumers. Retirees will also feel the pinch as the 50% relief on contributions to post-retirement medical funds previously capped at 60,000 annually has been abolished, leaving them to bear the full cost. This is also a reminder that starting next month, NSSF fees will be increased. Human Rights Watch Africa has expressed concern at Kenya's deteriorating human rights record as the country grapples with abductions and arbitrary detentions. Officer Musi Segun says the abductions are allegedly being carried out by a government-linked squad and are aimed at repressing criticism. According to Human Rights Watch, 83 young people have recently been abducted and 26 remain unaccounted for.
Ruto disbanded SSU in early 2023. He re-established a similar unit within DCI, retained some people from the SSU and recruited others. Those were people being recruited for a new unit that replaced SSU. It is called Operation Support Unit.
And MPs are now threatening to remove Public Service Cabinet Secretary Justin Muturi from office following allegations of inciting Kenyans against the government. Led by National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah and his minority Junet Mohammed, they said it was sad to see a CS who always holds meetings with the president and his cabinet colleagues publicly complain about the abduction of his son without giving good reasons.
And it is sad, Honorable Speaker, that today we even have cabinet secretaries who get tempted to playing to the public gallery, excite emotions on the basis of ethnicity and regions they come from, inciting communities against communities.
I can't just say my son was arrested by so and so. Give the reasons why he was arrested. And then why do you wait for 7 months so that you tell Kenyans why your son was arrested? Why don't you tell them the day he was released?
And they accused Muturi of fueling ethnic hatred following his statement on Sunday, calling on him to resign from government and give opportunities to others who are ready to serve the nation.
The honorable thing to do is, if you feel the ministry you are serving in is too small for you and you are too big for that ministry, simply resign. If you think, Honorable Speaker, that you are reassigned to a ministry where you are not able to extort money from people, and you know if you are about to be fired, don't pretend that you are either resigning or asking to be fired.
So if you behave in a very tribalistic manner, you behave in an awkward manner, then nothing stops us from filing an impeachment motion and removing you from office, Mr. Speaker.
That's the news wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
All right, let's check and see what's happening. Traffic at this hour. It's starting to build on the Thika Superhighway. A lot of that coming then towards Survey after the service lanes come to an end. And on the other side of things, coming off of Waiyaki Way, there is some traffic as well, starting to build as you touch then on Chiromo. And this is a little bit of traffic coming off of Outer Ring. It's going to cross over towards Manyanja and touch on Jogoo Road a little bit as you get towards Kamkunji at the roundabout. On the Eastern Bypass, we're not looking at too much. We'll see some of that build up, that's for sure, as you come through towards Embakasi and then out towards the Cabanas interchange. The Southern Bypass is looking pretty good as you get out towards Kikuyu. You're going to see a lot of traffic getting out of this area, finding a way then into Limuru this morning. Outbound traffic on the weekend is more of a thing than it is during the week. Okay, so let's see what happens. Langata Road, Gong Road through the morning. Just giving you a heads up as to what's happening. Do the same for us and talk to us on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
7 minutes after 7 o'clock this morning, and welcome to the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation. And I've got to ask you, have you registered for the first ever Study Abroad annual conference that's taking place in Nairobi on the 18th of January, just in a few days, and a few clicks away from the 27th, where it will take place in Eldoret. So it's the Eka Hotel in Eldoret, and it is the Gallant Mall in Parklands in Nairobi come the 18th. And so what's happening here? It's a full day of information, jam-packed with how technology will be able to match you to your university destination. So Cradle, as you know, is the first of its kind education platform that uses technology to match students towards destinations of their university choice. And this time you have asked for more time. Here's more time, where you have a whole day where you can confer with professionals. You can find out all this great information about what you need to know to get to university in another country. 600 destinations in 600 universities in 45 different destinations, and an opportunity for you to talk to folks about how to secure accommodation, your visa, your scholarships, everything that you would need. And there will be a battle of the university destinations, and that will be the highlight on that conference day. What do you need to do in case you've not registered? Log on to www.cradel.com, and you can also call 0799 000 444. We're getting into our Healthy Friday conversation for today, and we're going to be looking at mental health, a big issue, but specifically today we'll be looking at mental health, boys versus girls. Mehreen Farouk is a consultant clinical psychologist at the Aga Khan University Hospital in the hot seat this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm well, and you?
Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm well. And welcome to the Situation Room. This is the hot seat of the Situation Room. And we're talking about a hot thing today. Hot in the sense that it has grabbed attention and is affecting quite a number of people. But we're looking at boys and girls today. And I think the dynamics of those then, are quite something. But let's get into the conversation. First of all, by welcoming you properly to the Situation Room. C.T. Muga goes round Africa every week. Don't ask me how. Just imagine that he does. And every week he's in a different country, and he comes back with a basket full of proverbs that he shares with us. And so he'll tell you where we are this week, give you the proverb, and you can tell us what you think about it and how you would interpret it. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Okay.
Yes, this particular country, among the touristic attractions it has is its wildlife. Birds. It's a paradise for bird watching. It has more lakes than any other country on this continent. And one of the things that people do when they go there, they go to trek part of, you see in Kenya people go to the Mara. There they trek to watch gorillas, mountain gorillas. They also trek to watch chimpanzees. Which country do you think this is? Take a stab. It's one of Kenya's neighbors. One of Kenya's immediate neighbors. Begins with a U.
Uganda.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You were lost there for a moment.
Really, trekking to see chimpanzees, that's amazing.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Trekking to see, in fact, I left one out. Trekking to see tree climbing lions. Very unique. And of course I left out that its president is one of the longest serving on the continent of Africa. That is a detail I decided not to mix with the wildlife story. Anyway, the proverb. It's a simple one. Even the king needs to be taught. Even the king needs to be taught. What do you think this proverb means?
I think what it means is once you've arrived, and once you're there, and once you're empowered, I think it's very handicapping when now you block yourself from learning. Because what I take from the proverb is really arrogance. When you think you're there and you're up there, and you block yourself from learning. So let's be kings that learn and continue. Let's be inclusive kings, inclusive leaders. Really, I think that's my take on it.
Well,
it's a very good take.
Indeed,
it's an excellent take. Yes, when one is on a lofty perch, one has a tendency of thinking that they're better than everybody, and so they don't need to listen to anybody. Yes, there's that little tendency.
Okay. Well, I mean, there. Getting into the conversation for today, about 2.5 years ago now, mental health was declared a national emergency. There was a task force, about 3 years ago, there was a task force that was put together by former President Uhuru Kenyatta to find out what the issues were. Task force headed by medical and social professionals came out and said, you know what, we've been asked to find out what's going on, and actually our findings have made us arrive at this clear issue that mental health is a problem around the country, and it is so serious that it needs to be declared a national emergency. That's where we were 3 years ago. After that, we've started to see quite a number of things. We've seen many things happening. We've seen young boys and girls take their own lives. We've seen suicide rates rise. We've seen killings within family rise. We've seen child murderers start to increase. We've seen many things happening. with mental health. Today, we are looking at mental health and how it affects boys and girls differently, and some of the things that we will see manifesting. But as foundations of why it's important for us to talk about these things. And again, thank you for being here, Mehreen. But even as we do, can you just look at the situation from a broad, with an overview, and tell us, where we are today, and then how we can see this start to play out, and what differences we would look at between now boys and girls?
So basically, currently, what's really happening, it's good that you mentioned that it's become a national crisis. It's actually a global crisis, which we've always had mental issues. Really, mental issues is as long as you have, since we were created, we have the mind and the brain, and of course that's how it works. The reason why it's become a crisis at the moment is because mental health issues peaked after COVID. I think when we were in that span of COVID and post-COVID was when it actually became a global crisis. Now, where we are at now is we're really now doing the damage control. I think we're at that phase. 2025 is now we're wrapping it up and containing the situation. So 100%, and we're using these platforms to spread awareness, to reach out, we don't know who's listening to us right now, just to empower them as well. I think with national crisis, global crisis, we need to empower and give options that, yes, this is the situation and it's sad, but here we are, where we're all in to contain it.
So when we talk about mental health, especially among the boys and girls, these are pretty much children. But what would be the numbers in terms of stats, if you have that?
So if you talk about, according to the National Institute of Mental Illnesses, the mental severe or any mental illnesses is actually the bracket for the highest number of cases is young adults, 18 to 25. That's the chunk. Now, when we come to the adolescents, adolescents are actually 45.9% at getting these mental illnesses. 45.9% is almost half.
I'm sorry.
So that's huge.
Well, hold on. Can we look at that number? If you're talking about the total number of folks who would be affected by mental health issues, 45.9% of those are adolescents.
45.9% of adolescents in terms of the population. Yes, and the females are more affected, actually, when you look at the statistics.
That's a high number.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's like almost half.
Yeah.
And you see the chunk of mental illnesses, if we're to sort of say, okay, fine, which age group? It's the young adults. So you see, if we catch these young adults, that's why when they said that we need to do mental health, boys versus girls, children, if we catch these children early enough, before they're young adults, we're really nipping it in the bud. So that is where now we're curbing this global crisis. Let's catch them not when they're in their 40s and 30s. Let's catch them early on.
What are girls and boys? Because we're looking at adolescents, we're looking at between 10 years old
to 19.
To 19. What are they presenting with then that would trigger that, okay, there is something going on here?
I think what they're presenting with is so when we talk about mental health, it doesn't come full blown. They're just undercurrents, Now, let me give you the rule of thumb. Now, this rule of thumb is for, there's someone who asked me, I went for a talk and they said, so how do we find out that our coworker is bipolar? We don't. That's like giving your coworker a full-blown diagnosis. The rule of thumb is for any layman where we can sort of predict, the mental health is really down there. Number one is a decline in their performance, really, whether it's academics, whether it's maybe if they're teaching, if they're writing, if they're doctors. A decline in their performance is rule of thumb. And the other one is a decline in their daily functioning. If we have someone who wakes up at this time, eats at this time, has a daily routine, and we're seeing a drastic change, this guy has just been sleeping in. Have you showered? I mean, what's happening? Did you eat? So that's the rule of thumb for children, for young adults, and even for adults. So for us, those are the two things, if you're not a specialist, yes.
I'd like to understand, the figures that you give us are alarming, daunting, really. I'd like to know, how are these figures arrived at?
So basically what happens is the National Institute of Mental Health is an organization that carries forward these researches. So they have different topics where now they're researching on, let's say, post-COVID effects. And so when they did a joint study, they actually found out that it was alarming that the chunk, whether it is any form of mental illness, any mental illness, and then we have severe mental illness, the chunk is still the young adults. So these are several studies that have been, so the recent was carried in 2022, and then it's picking up.
And the findings were across how many countries? How many continents?
So the findings were really, it was global. So unfortunately now in Kenya, we don't have these research institutions, which is now another thing that we need to. So these are definitely now the western part, a little bit up subcontinent part. Let's say now we have India, and where they have these research, so they have a quota also. So I can call and say, so I've done this research in Africa, but am I belonging to a registered national organization that can carry this forward? Like, let's say, like License to Do for the World Health Organization and stuff like that. So there is so much room here, and that is why we get hit the most. Because we're always so unprepared, and we're always relying on these percentages. Okay, fine, it's like this. Fine, it's like this. But the researchers and the team are coming up, just to fill in that gap.
We have a Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, and a lot of the data that they collect are from, say, national government institutions. When one talks of mental health, there are indicators, there are pointers as to what it is that constitutes mental health, and whether it is something that is alarming, whether it is something that is pervasive, whether it is something that is on the increase. There are indicators. Because in many instances, people will seek healthcare for these particular issues, and that data is collected. So to some extent, we do have some data. As whether it is collated so that we have a national figure, we probably do, but the frequency with which we do it, we may not know. My question is this: what constitutes the triggers and the circumstances and the ecosystem within which the problems that contribute to mental health exist? Do we find them to be the same the world over? And if there are differences, where do we find these differences?
So, of course, I think what you're trying to look into is now the cultural aspect of it, the ecosystem. So within my, of course, there are different, what would trigger somebody in the West world might not trigger us on this side, clearly. But I have had, and this might be another alarming situation, but I have seen children from all over the world for the past 10 years. It is surprising that a child, let's say, maybe my client, a child from Israel, facing domestic violence, and then we have a child from Tanzania facing domestic violence, are actually showing the same symptoms, are responding to the same treatment plan, are responding to the same time frame in terms of treatment. So there's also definitely, with the cultural differences and the differences in triggers, there's definitely something universal going on here as well.
Okay.
And that is where we come together in a global crisis.
Okay.
So, Doc, if I could just read some numbers here. There is a research that was done in 2022 in Nairobi and Mombasa, and some of the the results that was actually found was that depression is high among out-of-school adolescents at 36% compared to school-going adolescents at 20.6%. So if you just look at that number right there, would come to indicate that fact that some children are out of school is a trigger for them to suffer mental illness. Why would that be the case?
I think what happens in fact my recent client was actually someone who wanted to go for boarding in a school, And when I asked her why did you do that, she said that so that I can get away from the triggers at home. So what happened in COVID, the reason why everything hit the roof was because everyone was at home. So school is a safe space, especially for children and adolescents because of their emotional regulation capacity. And I would believe that is probably the reason why children who are out of school are more exposed to these triggers.
What can you look out for? And I guess this is where we get into now, what are the differences then you would see between boys and girls? And also by way of example, a friend of mine lost her son because this boy had come home repeatedly and he had said, I don't want to go back to this school. He was in boarding school. I said, I do not want to go back. And of course, passing it off with, and I guess these are some of the things that we see in society today, passing it off with, it's a single mother, for whatever circumstance that brought about. And she's got all these other pressures that she's dealing with at the same time. So she tried to listen to this boy, but he repeatedly said, I do not want to go back to school. And so she said, maybe he's just, acting out. And it's pressures, it's normal things that you would go through as a 14, 15-year-old boy, and comes home for the long holidays and it's time to go back to school, and she said, I don't want to go back to the school. And she said, well, we're going back to school in a couple of weeks. And she found him hanging in his room the night before he was to go back. And it turned out this boy was being abused in school to the point of sodomy. And so, it was terrible for her because she's going to have to live with that. And she thought to herself, if I had just listened to what he was telling me, or if I had seen and been able to identify what he was actually saying to me, perhaps he would still be alive today and we could have figured out something. So that leads to the question that maybe many parents would be wondering, or teachers even, because you talk about also now maybe there's abuse at home, there's also could be abuse at school. What can you look out for? What can you see that will tell you there's something wrong here, and then you can catch it early, like you talk about? What can you look out for?
Rule of thumb, number 1, decline in daily functioning. When we have this boy, let's use your example, who's going to school and all of a sudden, I don't want to go to school. You have this child who's eating 3 meals, I don't want to eat dinner, and then it lingers on. When a decline in daily functioning, eating, showering, your regular routine pushes that 1 month, that's a red flag. That is a red flag right there. For instance, this child, I don't want to go to school. That's a decline in daily functioning. That is out of routine. Fine. This is a teenager, hormonal, probably doesn't want to go to school, is being lazy. But when it hits that 1 month time frame, it's a red flag right there.
And Doc, we're dealing also with parents who, for a very long time, talking about matters to do with mental health in the society is considered a taboo. It is something that should not be spoken of. And when such issues come up, it is, this child is being stubborn. You need to do as I say because I'm a parent, but not looking at the other side, that this could be mental illness. But also the parent comes from a certain time when mental illness is considered witchcraft and whatnot. So as a parent, how do you approach this? What should parents be looking out for, and how would they approach that?
So usually what happens, unfortunately, the downside of mental health, especially for children and adolescents, is that now the parents somehow wear the hat of like the villain. It's usually very difficult for parents now to help their child because the child really blocks out the parents. That is now what I call involving the third party, just to see what's happening. It doesn't have to be, I know that in a lot of schools now we have school counselors. So this third person could be anyone outside. It could be a teacher, it could be an aunt, it could be a grandparent, it could be a sibling. It could be just someone to sort of say, hey, are you okay? Do you think you need help? 100% we're not there as yet. Like if I was to go and say, maybe your child needs to see a psychologist. Oh my gosh, I am so judged, Like, really? Did you just call my child, my baby, crazy? It's still out there, 100%, but we're getting there. So you see that's why we need to define mental health. What is mental health? If we look at this region, mental health is, okay, now we're crazy. It's not. Mental health is like your physical health, Sometimes I may have a cramp here, sometimes I may have a cramp there. That is why we need that awareness of actually redefining mental health in this region.
So because we don't talk about it as much, like you said, on the other side of the pond, you have your weekly routine. You're going to go to work. You're going to go to the gym. You will, take your car for service, and you'll see your therapist. You see? So, you go for a checkup and you'll see your therapist because you're having a constant conversation about what's going on up here. Do you think we can get to the point where we're actually doing that? And then I really want to look into when we talk about boys and girls, is there a difference in how these would present between boys and girls? And we're talking about this region specific.
So let me get to your first question as well. That is it something that we will normalize? Now let's go back a little bit. From what I know, if I wanted to join a gym, I knew that in my area there would probably just be 2 gyms. Look at it now. We're starting we're getting there. As much as we thought gymming is a Western concept, it isn't. Similarly, psychotherapy isn't a Western concept. So yes, we will get there. To answer your second question about the manifestations, 100%. So what happens with children is, now this is both boys and girls. When children are young, it's usually not, they're on the same platform in terms of how mental illnesses are coming out. Abdominal issues. The early morning, my stomach is hurting, my head is hurting, is very common for anxious children. Very, very common. As they get older, preteens, adolescents, that is now when they start to divide. So what happens with boys is that we get a lot of anger outbursts, and that is when they're misdiagnosed. This is a just very angry boy who's always just grumpy. This boy could be depressed. When boys, in my experience, show a lot of outward aggression. Now, these are the boys who are throwing chairs in the classroom, and they do weird stuff like picking things just to be very notorious, hiding the PowerPoint remote controls, stuff like that. So they act out. For girls, what they do is now they get into the slump. They just want to be in their room, they isolate. Very inward kind of a situation. Of course, now we have other triggers where we have bigger issues, like now we have self-harm and stuff like that. So that is really up there, which is for both boys and girls. Yeah.
All right, let's take a break at this point. We're looking at mental health, this Healthy Friday conversation, and we're looking at the difference between mental health in boys and that with girls. Mehreen Fukar is a clinical psychologist, and she's here with us this morning, and we'll continue with that. We'll take a look at traffic and weather, and we'll come back right after this.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
And the weather this morning, Nairobi, highs of 23 degrees and lows of 14 degrees. In Kakamega County, highs of 30 degrees and lows of 14 degrees. In the coast, that is Mombasa, highs of 32 degrees and lows of 25 degrees. And in Nakuru City, highs of 27 degrees and lows of 11 degrees. Nyeri Town, highs of 25 degrees and lows of 8 degrees. Across the borders to Mogadishu, Somalia, highs of 31 degrees and lows of 23 degrees. In Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, highs of 22 degrees and lows of 7 degrees. In Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, good weather there, highs of 31 degrees and lows of 27 degrees. But it is not the same situation in Paris, France, as it is highs of 6 degrees and lows of 0 degrees. And in China, highs of 4 degrees and lows of -4 degrees. That is the weather these are.
Spice up your life.
Okay, so not too busy on these Nairobi streets. We are getting into traffic hour. Let's see how that will increase as we go through the morning. Some of that on the Thika Superhighway, not too much until you get to Survey, and it closes up just a little bit. And also coming off of Kiambu Road, we're seeing traffic this week for the first time, maybe the second. As you come off of Limuru Road, there's traffic there, the northern bypass with some traffic, and some of that will end up on Kiambu Road. And it's still very busy on Waiyaki Way, as it's been all through the week, in and outbound traffic. We've got some holdups there as you try to approach Chiromo. Also slows down a bit on Gong Road as you're getting into the city. Not too bad on Langata Road now. We'll probably see that pick up later. But there's a little bit of traffic on Aerodrome Road as you get towards Uhuru Highway and then into the CBD. We're starting to see a bit of a hold up on the Eastern Bypass, maybe getting towards North Airport Road in some parts. So let's keep an eye on things. Let us know what's going on where you are as we keep things moving this morning. SpiceFM KEONX, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
25 minutes to 8 o'clock, and Mehreen Farouk is a consultant clinical psychologist at the Aga Khan University Hospital, and she's here for our Healthy Friday conversation where we're looking at mental health and the manifestations difference between boys and girls. Before we went to break, Mehreen, you talked about self-harm, and what is that?
So that is another very tabooed topic. Self-harm is a coping mechanism. It is either cutting, burning, or sometimes even scratching, cutting, burning, scratching of. Adults do it as well, but it's very common in adolescents, and they do it. And the reason why it's self-harm because you're inducing it on yourself. So burning, cutting, scratching is not done by anyone else, but the child or the adolescent themselves, and it's a coping mechanism. It is a coping mechanism of children who are not getting the right amount of mental health intervention.
Yeah, and for a very long time, mental health in this side of the world pretty much has been associated with schizophrenia, and that is what people think is mental health. Yet, based off what I've gathered, that is the easiest to deal with and address, as opposed to depression. A child always telling you, "I am stressed, I don't want to eat." So now here comes a parent who is seeing all these things, hearing all these things, and depression is high, ADHD high among boys as compared to girls, but parents don't know how to do this. So that means this message, the gospel, needs to be sent more to parents, to teachers who are in contact with these children on a daily basis. In terms of matters to do with policy, government putting in place policy to make sure that this one gets out there, should they address it?
I think we're really coming up there in terms of how the government is taking this seriously, because you see, we never had licensing. In fact, I was doing my CPD just yesterday. We've never had that. You know, once you get your degree and once you get your diploma, that's it. I'm a mental health worker. It's really changing. We've just had a policy that's come out, where now suicide isn't illegal. Hallelujah. That is huge. I had to read that twice, by the way, because for us in a session, when somebody comes and says, so now I want to attempt suicide, or I did, and we're thinking, so now this thing is illegal. So it's also even hindering our, come and talk to me about suicide today, really. So we're definitely getting there on the government level. But I want to touch when you said in this part of the world, mental illness is schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is an adult disorder. It is not a childhood or adolescent disorder. So and what is schizophrenia? It's predisposition. I could be predisposed to schizophrenia, but I will not develop it if I'm secured in my childhood and adolescent. That's huge. So are you saying that if I get the right intervention as a child and as an adolescent, I will not be schizophrenic? What else do we need? Yeah.
As human beings, when we say that we live or we find ourselves in a healthy or an unhealthy environment, then comes the question of nature versus nurture and how this plays a part in how, one, we develop mentally and how we cope with situations. Now, I am concerned and I'm interested in looking at what it is that we can consider as a generalized genesis for what we call mental health disorders. And I want to go to the basic fundamental that human beings are social creatures. So when that is disturbed, when that isn't what it is, then we may not realize it, but we actually exist in an ecosystem that actually isn't healthy for us. So anything that could possibly have gone wrong has a much better chance of actually going wrong in that particular setup.
100%. When we are more exposed, that's why we have, you see, the classic, and I love that you've said that, the classic sort of reaction to somebody who is going out there getting triggered is isolation. Yeah, even for adults, even if males and females, is because now this world is just too much. That is something that I really, really need to agree on. With the world that we live in today, all the triggers are out there, all the exposure, especially with the digital media world. We have children who's exposed to so many things. I completely agree with you. So isolation is the first thing that they do. They immediately lock out and isolate themselves. But like you said, human beings are social creatures. So you have this kid who's not going out because there are too many creatures, but naturally we're biologically wired to be social.
I mean, if you look at, I'm asking, again, generally speaking, if we were to look at communities where the family setup and extended family setup is close-knit, is there a likelihood that we'd find fewer and fewer incidences of what we call these glaring mental health issues that we now consider to be the norm?
So basically, I think what you're trying to say is that communities and being close-knit and collectivist is actually helping the mental health environment. Definitely.
It's protective.
It is, 100%. I think it's, maybe initially we might hate our family, but the moment we come to our senses, we're like, let's have that dinner. Yeah. So I would agree to that. Collectivism is definitely something that is a protective factor to mental health issues, 100%.
See, I'm going somewhere with this, and I'm saying that if I look at the West, where the individual is the focus and an immediate unit, family unit is the focus of what is considered a family, one is very likely to find that mental health issues that could be dealt with in the unit that I've mentioned, simply because you feel that you're part of something, you feel there are people you can speak to, you now have to outsource it. Because the unit that ordinarily would actually provide it for you doesn't exist. Because everything is either nuclear or individualistic.
True.
Yes.
Yeah, I would agree. Now, just so you see, with mental illness, it's not like we're unwell throughout. You know, they do snap out of it. Yeah, so imagine now you're isolating, you come to your senses and you walk out and there's no one. You're like, I was better crazy. I'd rather just go back being, unwell. I mean, that's actually now my happy space. So I completely agree to that. That one, I don't even want to say anything. Yeah, let's lock it there.
Can we look at interventions? Because also at the same time when we talk about the differences between regions, we also need to look at the burden on the shoulders of a lot of parents, for example, especially now that we're talking about boys and girls. So if you look at the recognition of a mental health issue, usually is on the list of priorities, maybe 25. Because what are you looking for? You're looking for survival. You're looking for putting food on the table. You're trying to pay school fees. You're trying to take care of family. You're trying to take care of an emergency that would pop up. You're trying to survive. So now somebody, we're also saying at this point, you have to take into consideration what might be happening mentally for children. And unfortunately, as sad as it would sound, that it is just not a priority to sit and have a mental health conversation. It is not a priority. It is expensive. How do you look at a girl who is 13 years old, for example, who is self-harming, and you think, okay, well, she's burnt herself, let's just keep it moving. So when there are so many other things that are fighting for space, how do we deal with the issues which are so clearly evident? I mean, 49.5%, I'm still stuck on that number. Where some people have not even recognized that this is an issue for your adolescent children. How do you make it a priority when you're trying to survive?
Let me ask a question, just to add on to yours. How do you make it a priority if you don't even want to admit that it is a problem?
In the first place,
The picture you painted, you already have this burden and you're overwhelmed with all these things. Do you really have space to accommodate this reality?
You don't even acknowledge. You don't even have the bandwidth to acknowledge that there could be a problem, because your bandwidth is taken up in mostly survival, in making sure that you're, I mean, no pun intended, in making sure that you're even sane, So where do you start to deal? How do I say this is a 13-year-old girl who is burning herself regularly, or I say she's seeking for attention, we will pray and we will be done, Where do you begin?
That is an excellent question. That is definitely the downside that we have in this region. I think what's happening with mental health also is it's become very unscientific. When we have a regular Kenyan who is having issues with the chest, goes to the lab, gets the test done, and now it is pneumonia, they will take it seriously. So I think we need to add the scientific aspect to this. It seems like a very something that isn't tangible, and that's why it's not a priority. And that is where testing comes in. We have psychometric tests that actually give these parents a report that they can touch, that yes, your child has this and this is what the test. So testing, assessments, so that this vague mental health, what is that, too much, I have my bills to pay, it's just something that my brain cannot digest. But the moment you put a scientific aspect to it, they really take it seriously. Yes, it is expensive. That is something that is undeniable. Even testing is expensive. But we are now, I know that when I joined in, there were just very few school counselors, school psychologists, but they're coming in, at least we're getting there. Even this, I didn't even think in my wildest dreams that I would be on national TV talking about self-harm, or even using, or even saying the word self-harm. Oh my gosh, I said it again. You see? So we're getting there. We're in the right
I
direction.
really like your approach. I like your approach.
Yeah.
We are getting there. Yes, because a school counselor teaches regular classes like everybody else, and somehow they're supposed to find time.
Yeah, the school counselor is the PE teacher at the same time.
They teach religious education, and yet they're supposed to find time. And yet, ideally, that ought to be their primary function.
Yes.
Being available so that when students come up, been to schools where they actually have a school nurse. That nurse doesn't teach.
Yeah.
They are there to ensure. And I've seen schools where the nurse is even a counseling psychologist. So these issues we're talking about, you know exactly where to go. Yes.
Yeah.
So you are right. They didn't exist before, but one sees them more and more. You are right.
You know, another thing that we do, and I don't know if it is a tragedy. I mean, if my mother is listening, she might ask me, why did I go off the straight and narrow? But you know, a lot of things that we do with some of these issues, we want to take them to the altar of religion, and we want to pray them away, and we say, no, this is just something that
This one requires prayer.
This one requires prayer. That Allah will take care of it, or Jesus will take the wheel. But we don't ever want to associate it with an issue. We'll pray and we'll go to church on Sunday, we'll pray on Friday. That's how we'll deal with the issue. True. That's how we handle it, isn't it? Because we don't want to do two things. Number one, come face to face with the reality that this is an issue based on the taboo issues that we spoke about, and also because we are not trying to get into this whole thing where we start to say, my child is now seeing a psychologist.
It's called stigma, my dear.
Yeah, stigma. I don't want to be the one where we're sitting in the whatever and we say, Ntu's daughter seeing somebody thrice a week.
But you see, it's what is associative with it, because it's not your child, it is you.
It's me who has the problem. You see?
Yes, because
so rather than deal, I'll say, you know what, let's pray. Sisters,
yes,
let's pray.
Yes. See, if you have a child who's gone completely bonkers, then that family is probably a few eggs short of a dozen.
Yeah.
Now you are part of that dozen. You don't want that association. How did we treat people who are mentally unwell in our society? We locked them up.
Yeah.
Caged them and chained them. We did.
Yes.
So that brings the next conversation on all that we just spoke about, in terms of making sure that if it's in our religious institutions, that even in those institutions they have counseling psychologists who can advise on such issues. It is good to pray for it, but it's equally good to see a doctor who would be able to advise on how best to go about it.
So you see what happens with spirituality and religion and therapy is that spirituality and religion is very big. So when we come into a session and if we see that this person is spiritual or religious, I actually go on and say that, you know what, we've done our part, and go for your Sunday prayers and just throw in some prayers for me too. You see that association that, so it's not different, like I can do that. So we need to build that. I take spirituality, and you can't be like no, don't pray or don't. We need to build that association, and that, because it's somehow they seem that, oh my God, am I really going against the power of God if I'm going for sessions? No, you're not. You will come for sessions, you will go pray, and you will throw in some prayers for me too. So we need to build that association.
There's something that you mentioned earlier in terms of the latest decision by the courts on suicide. Just what exactly does this mean when it comes to addressing mental health issues in the country?
Acceptance. It is mental health. Why did mental health become an issue in the first place?
Taboo, actually.
Yeah, so it because it can be life-threatening. If we didn't have children or adolescents or young adults with depression, anxiety, and they're so, like, if I show you the manual of disorders, they're so huge. You'd probably even kick me out from here, like, what? But you see, the reason why it was taken seriously even by the government was because it's actually happening. If it wasn't life-threatening, because mental health can be life-threatening, it wouldn't have been taken seriously. But where
the bigger problem in my mind is the dissonance that you see at a macro level where those in leadership seem completely disassociated with what actually happens. That, in my mind, is a mental health problem. Because yes, it is a mental health problem. How do you make decisions that, in the end, if I'm polite, I will say, decisions that do not benefit those who gave you the position and still give you the position, and instead you make decisions that benefit you directly, and then you forcibly look for justifications for a position you've taken and logic that you've used to justify what you've done, and yet you've completely moved away from what it is that you're supposed to do. And you continue moving away and continue justifying it. That is a serious mental health condition. In my mind, it's serious, because how do you disassociate yourself from actually providing assistance for those who gave you the job to do that for them? How? Something is wrong with you. Yes, I know it's a bit political, but
No, I would add that is now an undiagnosed situation. You see, now when we reach at that point where we're doing it at our workplace, in our marriages, there was something back there that we could have handled, so that, and then the problem is, like the way you're saying, is that it seems very normalized.
Yes, it is normalized, and yet there's nothing normal about it. But look at the contributory effects it has on society. If I cannot figure out what I'm going to do tomorrow, stress levels will go up. What does that do to my body? What does that do to my mind? What does that do to my relationships? And the causal effect is a decision that was made by someone who's completely disassociated with what happens to me and many others. If I lose my job, it means I cannot provide so many things. My mental state will clearly be disturbed. And I'm saying, I'm associating it. Somebody who makes such a decision does not see the causal effect downstream. Something is fundamentally wrong with that person.
And for many people.
Because it is a
you see, because you don't make that decision and it affects one person.
No.
That decision that you make to either do something or not do something affects people. It's the domino effect is unprecedented in terms of
look at the effects on the parents, then look at the effect on the children. Before we came, we were talking about schooling. All right, children went to school; they're now going back home. Parents have to go and get the children to take them back home. Okay, you were supposed to have ensured that there is money for what we call capitation. It isn't there. Children can't be in school because they can't eat because the money wasn't given, and yet the taxpayer, who's the parent, says, but me, I pay my taxes. Why is my tax not being used for what I want? Why I'm using this political example, socio-economic and socio-political example, is this. When we talk about a mental health crisis in the country, the focus seems to be on the citizenry, and I'm focusing on what effect is making the citizenry be what they are. What is pushing them to this corner? And whoever is responsible for pushing them in that corner, if that person is the person who was mandated to ensure that doesn't happen, then there's something fundamentally off.
And I think, City, as well, as we just talk about government intervention and whatnot, it is good that the government has seen the need forming a task force and all that. But again, the decision that the same government makes is really critical, because we talk about children going to school. We heard of stories of a student has gone back to school, they're being paraded in public, being told they've not paid fees. And what that would just do to that child is destroy them. Their performance goes down because you have embarrassed them over something that they cannot control, which goes to even speak in terms of our teachers and knowing how to deal with issues such that they do not introduce these children to mental illness based off how they handle matters.
So I think we're just basically talking about adult responsibility. So that is the rippling effect. The last thing you want, you have one unhappy or mentally ill person in a family, and it affects affects everyone. You know, like this can actually affect your entire lineage, really. One person with a mental health issue. So, and then that is now the rippling effect. Now, of course, mental health, I understand, can also be dangerous, you know, when you're talking about poor decision making that is affecting everyone, you know. So it still all boils down to early intervention and diagnosis and awareness.
Okay, so I mean, even as we wind down on this conversation, at least for this hour, what are some things that, you know, parents can do that is available across social strata? Because, you know, it would be easy for somebody who maybe is, you know, affluent or well-to-do to find a therapist. Again, we talk about the fact that for a lot of people, that is not their agenda. It's not even on their agenda. But what can you do with what you have to ensure that, you know, children, because children will grow up. And a lot of the times, the folks that we see with mental health, that we experience with mental health issues, from what we see in research, is that they started off with these issues as children. What can you do at that level to ensure that some of these things are nipped in the bud?
So you see, basically, if we were to really nip it in the bud, and when I talk about parents, you know, the only issue is that the parents take a very long time to accept. You know, it is like, I've had parents who come in and they say, oh, so this happened like 2 years ago. Every parent would want the best for their child, you know, and we work together with parents as therapists. We never work against them. My only request to parents and guardians and caregivers is that let's catch it early on. I know it is a very difficult, but the more you linger on, the more it picks. And this thing is fast. It can really pick. And then I wouldn't say that it's going to be too late, but it's just going to be more damage control and more work. So let's be quick in accepting that, okay, fine, there is a situation and now I may need help, and reach out. Parents feel very handicapped. We have free helplines. As much as mental health is expensive, we have helplines who will guide them. We have child protection services. We're getting there. So let's not panic. Let's accept early on. And as expensive as it is, we do have domains where this is actually also free of charge.
Right. Yeah. Mehreen Farouk, thank you. Thank you for being here this morning. Just continue to highlight some of these things, stuff for us to, you know, things and triggers for us to look out for, essentially trying one step at a time to make society healthier on the mental stage as well. Mehreen Farouk is a consultant clinical psychologist from the Aga Khan University Hospital, and has been our guest this hour for a Healthy Friday conversation on mental health in boys and girls. Good morning. It's 8 a.m.
Spice up your...
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. Finally, the panel tasked with conducting an assessment and public engagement for the establishment of a university entrance in Nzoia County has submitted its report to Governor Georgina Tembeya, which recommends the formation of an implementation committee as well as various faculties of study. The chairman of the panel, Professor Masiba Lumala, said the university, which will be built on the site of the former referral hospital in Kitale, will stimulate economic activities and focus on various technologies in the fields of study.
We settled on the former Kitale District Hospital, which is about 55.7 acres. We have looked at the physical facilities. We have looked at the academic programs in line with our proposed mother university, which is Kibabi University. And at the end of the day, we are more than convinced that we are ready to have our university in Nzoia this year. We propose that we establish a university implementation team to go on with the work that we have started. A public university will not only improve access to education, but also catalyze economic growth and social transformation.
On his partner, Tembeya said the university will be under the supervision of Kibabi University.
We are thrilled to announce our collaboration with the Kibabi University to establish our own university in Trans Nzoia. We have begun the preliminary steps, and today we have unveiled the County University Task Force report, which will be instrumental in informing our next steps towards realizing this ambitious project. Our mandate in education is as clear as day and night, but for our students to succeed back home, we must address the challenges that ail our great county, the great basket of Kenya, with over 40% of our people living below the poverty line.
And the Co-op Women's Parliamentary Alliance has officially launched the Stop Violence campaign that will be conducted in all 47 counties with the aim of addressing cases of gender-based violence. The alliance, led by Co-op Chairperson Lea Soipatu and Likuni MP Mishimboko, said that there are many people, especially youth and children, who are being abused, thus reiterating the need for the community to be sensitized about GBV.
GBV pia ni ya mtoto wa kiume. Watoto wangapi leo wamelawitiwa? Ni watoto wengi sana. Pia vijana wangapi wamepatikana wameuawa? Vijana ambao wameshikwa, wametekwa nyara na wanapatikana pia wamekufa katika njia za utatanishi sana. Kwa hivyo swala hili tutalichukua lote kwa pamoja. Tuweze kuona ya kwamba taifa letu litamhakikishia mama na msichana na kijana na wale ndugu zetu walemavu. Unaweza kufikiria mwanamke ambaye ni mlemavu ama msichana ambaye ni mlemavu na anafanyiwa dhulma za kijinsia. Je, jamani, mja kama huyu atakuwa na uwezo wa kujitetea?
Mboko added that Keopa will collaborate with the judiciary to ensure that perpetrators of violence are given appropriate punishment. According to Keopa statistics, 40% of women have experienced gender-based violence in the community.
Pia nyakati nyingine tunapata changamoto. Mhalifu anashikwa, anapelekwa mahakamani, lakini unapata anapatiwa yani adhabu ambayo ni ndogo, adhabu ambayo si sahihi ama si adhabu ya kuweza kukomesha dhulma kama hizi. Kwa hivyo lazima pia tuweze kushirikiana na mahakama, tuone ya kwamba mahakama itasimama kidete kufuata sheria na kupeana adhabu kali sana.
And finally, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga continues to engage with leaders from the Southern African Development Community as he intensifies his campaigns for the chairmanship of the African Union Commission. On Thursday, the Kenyan candidate visited the neighboring countries of Botswana and South Africa. Raila was hosted by President Duma Boko of Botswana. Of Botswana. During their meeting, the former Prime Minister sought Boko's support for the AUC post, underscoring his robust plan to help the continent achieve its development aspirations. Raila also met with South Africa's Cyril Ramaphosa in Pretoria, where Odinga's candidature for the AUC chairmanship was the primary topic of discussion. Raila concluded the day with a visit to Lesotho, where his delegation was hosted by Prime Minister Sam Matekane in the capital of Maseru. In addition to Ramaphosa, Boko and Sam, the former Prime Minister has also met with Namibia's President Nangolo Mbumba and Zimbabwe's Emmerson Mnangagwa. That's the Newswire. I'm Lea Ubaga.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Taking a look at what's happening with traffic this morning, just a little bit of that getting into the city, and it's quite busy as you come off the Thika Super Highway. It'll continue for some time coming off of the other parts of the city, Westlands, and coming off of Waiyaki Way and Gong Road, as well as Langata Road. So keeping an eye on all of this morning. Also some traffic that's coming off of Mombasa Road towards the Capital Centre and then out towards the Nyeri Stadium roundabout. That continues this morning as well. All right, let's keep talking as we get into it. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Patrick Lodge, Otieno Lumumba. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
CT Muga.
mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
Yeah, we're talking about 12.7% of the population of the young people aged between 14 to 37 years of age, and the KCB is here in making sure that as much as they drop out of school, they do not have employment, that they are able to take them back to school, they're able to go through training, get the certification they need, and they are able to have something they do for themselves as entrepreneurs, or even having an opportunity to get jobs out here. And KCB to Jajiri says that it combines vocational skills training, business development training, access to finance and business mentorship, which is designed to prepare them for entrepreneurship, thus spurring growth and development. It is not just about taking you to school, upskilling the skills that you have, but equally making sure that you are ready for the market. KCB says for you to get all this information, it's easy. kcb.com/foundation, and all the information you need, you'll get it right there.
There you have it. And as we are getting into an education conversation this hour, Professor Noah O. Midamba is our guest this hour, Senior Associate Global Center for Policy and Strategy, and we're asking questions about which way forward for education. Prof, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I am so excited to be back in the Situation Room.
Oh, well, glad to have you here. And it's also very good that you've come back with your signature bow tie.
Oh, thank you. Because Oga is here. So I have to be properly ready.
Of course.
Yes.
Well, in that respect, then, how about we welcome you properly with today's proverb, and CT will tell you where he's gone this week, and then you can tell us what you think about that.
But before I do that, let me just say one or two things, and then we can get into that.
Actually, I would like to welcome you with the proverb first, so maybe CT can actually welcome you, and then we can go into that.
Oh,
yes.
All right?
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you know that the country from which the proverbs emanate for this whole week have two ladies in positions of authority? The vice president of that country is a lady. She's called Jessica Alupo. The prime minister is also a lady called Robina Nabanja. Mm-hmm. That country is Uganda. Okay? Mm-hmm. This is rare and it's unique.
It is.
Extremely unique. Another proverb. Even the king needs to be taught.
Even the king needs to be taught.
Yes.
Prof, what do you think about that? How would you interpret that?
There are three vital organs we have as human beings. One is your heart, the other one is your brain, and the other one is your mouth. So nobody is perfect.
Okay. No matter what position you are in.
Yes. Think, reflect before you act.
There you go. Pretty straightforward. That one has been this morning, isn't it? So we're looking at education. I mean, and those couple of things that you did want to say, in fact, I think then come into play here. We're looking at a situation where, unfortunately, when we look into the headlines for the last 1 month, education has featured here. Whether we're looking on one paper that talks about the fact that KCSE graduates in limbo over varsity placements, whether you want to look at another headline when you look at alarm as hundreds fail to report to varsities over funding crisis, when you look at children having to be walked back home by their parents because they've not been able to afford fees, when we look at classrooms that were supposed to have been, completed, not having been completed. I mean, the list goes on and on. And crisis is the word that has been used. Heading towards, no man's land is another one. It just continues and it goes on and on and on, and it would appear as though there is a sector that has problems, and deep-seated ones as well. What's your overview of what is currently going on in the education sector in the country?
Let me give you what my father gave me my father, Walter Midamba, gave me when I was 12 years old. And then we get into the thinking of the problem we're talking about. I was 12 years old, and my father looked at me, and we were very close. And he said, do not accept defeat, for God is with you. Mm-hmm. If they close your door, go through the window. Mm. If they close the window, go through the wall. And if they close the wall, go through the roof. But never accept defeat. And so I want to congratulate the kids, the learner who just got result. And I know they're anxious about their future and what is going to happen to them. And I want to say I welcome you all to the Learning Center. Mm-hmm. And also, therefore, whatever result one get should not be the end of where you are going. But reflect on what my father said to me when I was 12 years old. And I live with that till today. First Saturday, I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. And I'm sponsoring a preschool. We built a church, and we created a preschool that now has 25 kids. We're providing all the books. I'm paying the teachers, and parents are bringing snacks and everything for the kids. And a kid, my brother Huntington, the youngest one, came to me because I didn't go to church. And he said, you have to buy shoes for this one kid. And I say, is that one of our kids? And he said, no. So just walk several miles from another area, mm-hmm. and came and said, she's at near girls, she's 13 years old. Mm. She's in Form 3. She got all A's. She's walking barefoot, and everybody has shoes. So she wants you to buy her shoes. And it's a Saturday, so I said, now, what are we going to do? Mm. Bata is several miles away. And my brother said, you must buy this child's shoes. I said, okay, let's get in the car. And we got the kids. We drove to Kisi Town and bought the kids 2 pairs of shoes and socks. And I never seen a warm smile in my life. The kid was very excited. And he said, thank God. No, I'm not God. Mm. And I don't pretend to be God. But what I'm saying is calling upon every single members of our society, mm-hmm. Kenya, that lift the hands of a child that is looking up to you in your community, whichever way you can.
I hear you calling on people in the community to actually do something about those children who have an issue, okay? Because here we are, and this week we're looking at several of those families mm-hmm. who have school fees to pay and are not able to do so and are having to take their children back home. Mm-hmm. We also have a situation whereby school fees has been increased because whatever should come from government coffers has not come. And again, parents are not able to afford this. But it doesn't point to the lack of communal or societal will to help. What it points to is fundamental cracks and fissures in government that should deal with these issues from the get-go. How do we start to look at a system which is cracked and deal with those issues so that every child is able to live out their fundamental right of being in school for quality education?
My dear sister, you're raising really fundamental question about the nation state of Kenya. And the facts is we're not as bad off as the headline is saying. Mm-hmm. Kenya is the leading literary country in East Africa. Kenya is the one that invented M-Pesa. Kenya have one of the most innovative young people they are. But as I'm going to go into this thing, it takes a village to raise a child. It is not government alone, and I'm not here pretending to be speaking for anybody. I'm speaking for myself, and I'm observing, and I'm analyzing, and I'm reporting what I know we should do in terms of what happened to me in America. And why I'm saying this is about lower 50% of us paying taxes. Now, how many are we in Kenya? What's the total population?
55 million plus.
55 million plus. So think about that. That 80% of white Americans are paying taxes. And about over 50% of African Americans are paying taxes in America. So that communities in America and the people in America prioritize education. So does Israel. So does South Korea. So does Singapore. So does Japan. And it takes the village in terms of the parents, the community, the pastors, the church, in order to shake it up and bring it together.
I have to ask you, so are we saying, essentially, that if 55 million Kenyans were paying taxes, if 55 million Kenyans were filling their communal role of coming together and helping one another out, if fathers, mothers, community leaders were doing their role as community, would we suddenly see 46 billion shillings in capitation that was meant to be released on by the 6th of January, then released? Would we see that? I'm trying to make a connection between the communal responsibility or community responsibility and what we see happening at Treasury, for example, where money that was meant to do 1, 2, 3 for children to go back to school has not been released. Is there a direct correlation between that responsibility and this action or inaction from Treasury?
Again, that is what you are raising is right. The point is this community is responsible. The community elect a member of parliament. The community elect the president. The community are responsible for the structure and government of Kenya, 3 arms of government. And the community can also say, enough is enough, people. It's time for you to go home. We need to elect other people to do it. But when people start pointing fingers at each other, okay, this is what I'm talking about. And I'll give you a definite example. When people start pointing at it, oh, it's the teacher, oh, it's the principal, oh, it's the government, or it's the chief. Who is responsible? And therefore, our government must be government of the people, for the people, like Abraham Lincoln said. And so we are responsible to make that government responsible. Don't just spit out words. I said, think, reflect, and act. What you say out of your mouth is the result of how your head and your heart think. The question: do you have a solution?
Prof.
And so I'm pushing back because I'm tired of these headlines.
Prof, as we speak about the government for the people and by the people and for the people, the government in place was elected by majority of Kenyans in the 2022 elections, that we agree. And as we talk about the government that is in place, there is the budget making process that went into place, 638 billion shillings that was planned to go towards education. But as we speak right now, let me just read some numbers for you. We talk about 48.4 billion shillings funds that were allocated for schools, and the schools that we're talking about, the last term that was closed, actually that was the third term, there is 7,000 shillings capitation that was supposed to go to these schools that was never released by Treasury out of the 22,000 shillings. This goes to show that the government of the day, which was elected by majority of Kenyans, has failed to ensure that children of this republic get to access education as they should. Prof, as we speak about matters to do with education, isn't the government being insincere and unfair in ensuring that the fundamental right of children of Kenya to access education is not granted to them as espoused in the Constitution?
You are right. I mean, there is no question. You and I don't have any debate. Government must do its part. The legislature must do their part. And we, the people, must make sure the money budgeted for certain things are implemented. Okay, there is no question about it. But what I'm pushing against is just jittery, about everybody. I'm not responsible, so-and-so is responsible. Because there are issues, there are fundamental issues. Fundamental issues is that there is more need than the money that we have to implement whatever we need to do, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's education, whether it's whatever. But fundamentally, no country in the world can develop without education. No, you cannot point that. So education must be prioritized. But it is a grassroots level commitment that must make the government accountable at all levels. Okay? There is the national government, there is a county government. There is also responsibility exposed by our constitution, what the counties are responsible for and what the national government is responsible for. So the question is, why did we fail? There are complex issues here, people, that let me just mention a few. One is the mindset we have. South Korea has a policy called mindset. That means we can do it. Okay? Whether or not you have money, collectively we can do it. And the government goes and implements things that people say, wow. Second thing is equity. Okay? That's a very big issue that we have. And the third is quality. The people we're producing from university and schools, are they employable? What is happening in the system? And lastly is funding. Okay? Which is never enough based on our need. So the issue is not simply did you budget this and not implement. What is the accountability for making sure that this is budgeted?
Or who is accountable?
The government.
Isn't it? And even within government, because we speak of government sometimes and it's this dinosaur, isn't it? But when we're talking about specific individuals, we're speaking about, groups of people who are responsible for getting things done. And sadly, one of the things that we do see is that when we talk about this accountability or responsibility, whenever we speak about it, as often as we do, we are told that we are being too negative, or that we're looking for negative things in a situation. But sometimes, isn't it that if we don't point out those things to the point that it becomes sore, we will not get traction in doing the right thing? And that's what we're saying.
I agree.
That isn't it just, we just need to get comfortable and make it such a practice that it becomes second skill or second nature of doing the right thing.
I agree with you. But I've traveled in this world more than most Kenya will ever think about. I've seen and learned from everywhere I've traveled. How does Japanese deal with in this kind of situation? How does South Korea deal in this kind of situation? How does Singaporeans, how do they deal with this kind? So the government is not moved away from me. I'm part of the government. And I'm responsible to go in and say, and capable, because I have all the information I can get. Where the budget is, what happened, how much was stolen, the pilferage within the system, and who say who, and what are they going to do. We have.
But they're held accountable. This is the thing that I was speaking about.
We are not.
That if somebody's name is on a particular docket, Prof, if it is my name, Ndu, and I am responsible for making sure, for example, that within the system, all schools, this is an example, that within the system, all schools that are registered there in the system are actual schools that exist. And that when they receive money from government, it is going to a proper institution, not a ghost school, not a piece of land with a gate in front of it, so that in the event that we find out something like that is happening, Ndu is responsible. And I think that's the difference between these countries you say that you've traveled to and that you've seen, and what we see on this side of the pond. That responsibility and accountability is a suggestion. It's as if you just blow in the wind in a particular direction and maybe it'll go somewhere. That accountability to the nth is not taken, and then we see a whole system has problems here and there, and that's what we lead to why we call it a crisis. That if we cannot take responsibility at the micro level, how do we want to take and say that at the macro is working?
You know, when I was Vice Chancellor at KCA, we teach what's called mindset. Every single person that is hired to be at the university is taught mindset. Every single student that enroll is taught mindset. The issue is simple. Who is accountable and how are we going to do it together? You know, if you are quiet as a student and something happened, did you speak to the professor or to the person responsible? And when you go home, did you get all what you expect? And so the mindset in this country, it is the mindset of blaming each other. Okay? That's not going to get us to canon. What's going to get us to canon is soul search. Every single person, because the president and the government does not exist outside us. They're the same people. You know, today we'll elect you, and then tomorrow we'll start. You know, why don't you do what we're doing? So we need to make the president accountable. We need to make members of parliament accountable. We need to make the judiciary accountable. We need to make ourselves accountable, because every single one of us are responsible for something. You know, from the church to grassroots level to everything. That is the problem we have in the country.
Prof, we talk about accountability, and when you talk about accountability, it is well espoused even in the structure of this country. We have the president, we have the legislative arm of the government that is supposed to check what the executive is doing. And we know that as we speak today, the arm that is the legislature of this country has laid us down in terms of making sure that checks and balances and accountability we're talking about is actually achieved. Kenyans have been speaking, and Kenyans, even us in this room speaking about what you're doing, is holding the authorities that be to account and saying that we do demand better. But Prof, on the other side, do we have a government that is listening to the people? Like you are saying, we are not distant from the government. We are part and parcel of that government because we put it in power. But the man at the top, those that have the responsibility of making sure that things run, do they listen to what Kenyans are saying? Do they listen to what Professor Midamba is saying?
You know, let me say this again. Leadership. What is it? What's about? I found when I came from America, an institution that really had problems. Faculty and staff not being paid for over a year. People stealing everything from pencil to what have you. And for 6 months, I just watched and observed. The people didn't know what I was doing. They had no idea until I assembled enough information. Then I called the people together. And I said, it's going to be tough. But within 3 years, we're going to recover from our debt. And people are going to be paid on time. And it's not going to come from heaven. It is you. Because I will not fire anyone. We're going to do it together. And let me say, by the end of the 4th year at the university, we had recovered our debt. By then, all faculties were paid on time. And the 5th year, we start promotion and then giving people incentive. And by the time I left, in 10 years, we had the largest surplus, the university. Students moved from 4,000 to 18,000. And if you talk to them today, they're different people. I told students, it doesn't matter where you come from, whether your parents are rich or poor. You are responsible for your future. When my father escorted me to the airport going to America, he said, my son, this is the only money I have. And when you get to America, I will send you some money. Within 1 year in America, I figured out what to do because this is a land of opportunity. So we figured out, two of us, one from Ethiopia and myself, form a company for cleaning the houses of older people and cutting grasses of those older people. And we did it so well that we are now increasing more and more students to work with us. And I was able to make more money than I can expect. So instead of my father sending me money, I send the money back. That's what I taught my student at KCA. I said, within every graduation, I want to see a millionaire coming out of you, created by you. And therefore, this government that we have is not going to be different than Moi's government, than Kibaki's government, than Kenyatta's government, unless we make it happen. We make every single one of us accountable.
Okay.
And we make the people in there accountable.
Let's take a break and come back and look at the how. Sometimes it's easier said than done, but let's look at the how and how that exactly will happen. It's 25 minutes to 9 o'clock. We're having a conversation this hour with Professor Noah Mudamba, and we're looking at, all right, which way forward in a system or in a what many people have called a crisis. Those conversations continue. I want to remind you that Still Speaking Matters Education, the first ever study abroad annual conference, is taking place in Kenya on the 18th of January in Nairobi at the Gallant Mall in Parklands, and on the 27th of January at Okoh Hotel in Eldoret. Come, speak to professionals, talk and look at 600 different universities in 45 different destinations. Learn how you can secure a student visa, information you can get about scholarships, accommodation, and all sorts of other things. Participate in the battle of the university destinations as well. How do you do that? You register www.cradle.com, or you can call 0799 000 and find out how you can spend a day getting all the information that you need, and then leave armed with that information to get onto your education in different destinations around the world. That's www.cradle.com or 0799 000 444.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
And the weather this morning in Nairobi, as the sun slow but surely peeps in, highs of 23 degrees and lows of 14 degrees. In Kakamega County, highs of 30 degrees and lows of 14 degrees. And in Mombasa, highs of 32 degrees and lows of 25 degrees. And you go to Mogadishu, that is in Somalia, highs of 31 degrees and lows of 23 degrees. And in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, highs of 22 degrees and lows of 7 degrees. And in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, highs of 31 degrees and lows of 27 degrees. But in China, it's pretty cold with highs of 4 degrees and lows of -4 degrees. And in London, highs of 10 degrees and lows of 7 degrees. That is the weather. This are good morning.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life.
Okay, so what are we looking at with traffic this hour? still continues. It's not too busy a Friday, and I don't think you see too many in terms of hold-ups. But outbound traffic on the southern bypass heading out towards Kikuyu and then out towards Limuru, that's going to have some traffic on it, but we're not at any hold-ups there. Also, as we're coming in from the Thika Superhighway, traffic is more or less coming to an end, and we'll also see a little bit of traffic then left on Waiakiwe as you head towards the CBD. We're going to keep an eye on all of this. Help us out as we do. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
This new year, say yes to a new world of entertainment on StarTimes. Enjoy the finest family entertainment on all your favorite channels. Recharge your subscription for 2 months and get upgraded to the next high bouquet for 2 months. Kick off the new school year with a world full of adventures on our kiddie channels. The excitement of sports action in the Carabao Cup, Bundesliga and La Liga. Who will be the new champions? Edge of the seat action on our blockbuster movies. Fresh heart-stopping premium telenovelas plus more spectacular entertainment on your StarTimes decoder. Download the StarTimes On app to enjoy unlimited entertainment anytime, anywhere. StarTimes. Enjoy digital life.
Are you a young person looking to unlock your potential? Are you ready to take the future in your hands? If so, then listen up. KCB to Jejiri is the plan. It's designed to empower young people like you, develop skills and knowledge you need to succeed in life. KCB to Jejiri combines vocational skills training, business development training, access to finance and business mentorship, preparing youth for jobs, entrepreneurship and wealth creation. Don't be left out. Visit kcbgroup.com/foundation to learn more.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Continuing conversations at this hour with Professor Noah Midamba, and we're talking about, all right, a sector in crisis, and what is the way forward. We've come off the break, and Prof you said to us, you know, we need to all be involved in keeping government accountable. So whether we're talking about education today, we could be talking about something tomorrow. How do we do that? Do we get on social media? Do we participate in radio programming and TV programming? We use all sorts of media. Do we stand out in the street with placards? That might not work to us. We saw with what happens with the protests. How does this play out?
Allow me to give you a skeleton or an image of the problem we have. Then I want to talk about way forward. Way forward is where I want to spend a lot of time, if you allow me. There is a shift from 844 to the new program without adequate preparation. We move faster than, we don't have enough teachers. We don't have trained teachers that will support the new system. The new system is the best, I can tell you. Because my children in America are going to Jewish school. And that system requires every member of the family to be there, the grandparents, the father, the mother, and everything. And the kids are learning. You know, in a preschool, they set them, they give them every tools, and they allow them to play with everything. And then they figure out who is performing art, who is mathematician, who is going to finance, and who is engineers, and who is doing this. They're doing it, parents and the system. The poor trained teachers in the system. You cannot tell me that when you talk about mechanical engineering and looking at that, you can take any teacher to teach class. There is curriculum misalignment. And therefore, there is a huge problem. Many academics programs lack relevancy, particularly in the universities, where and I want to just pick Egerton, because I had a long talk with the Vice Chancellor. And I said, why are you teaching criminal justice in a premier agricultural institution that need to produce the best agriculturalists that need to help the community? And the man regretted. He accepted the responsibility for not guiding his school in order to produce the kind of people that we need. Agriculture is number one, to feed the people. There's slow adaptation of remote learning. Remote learning is critical because we don't have enough teachers. For instance, right now I'm teaching 70 students from 16 African countries at Cavendish University. And I'm here based in Kenya, and they're all from all over, including two from Europe. And we're doing fine. All that has got to be programmed, the structures got to be in place, and students and the instructors got to know who is doing what. That has got to be done. And that will save us incredible amount of resources. Where we'll need tons of teachers to do that, you have only one person who's doing it. That's where the world is today. There is problem with transition to management. For instance, you cannot just go and get my friend here and say, today you are the vice chancellor. Okay? He never been in that office in his life. He was a teacher. But today you are vice chancellor. You're making decisions about the future of the institution. And you're not being trained. I tell you what Strathmore has done, because that's my best example. The person who is coming is shadow the former vice chancellor for 1 year before they let go and say, now you're in charge. All companies who are successful, including governments, are doing that. We take Israel, take Singapore, take South Korea. They're all doing that. And so there is mismanagement that is over there. Public university at this point where we're sitting have accumulated 70 billion. How did it happen? I was in public university in America, and we have a system. I was vice president of the third largest public university in America. We have a system that if you cannot mismanage your department, you are down by say let's for instance $5 million. The next budget we take away $5 million out of your budget. If you make surplus, we return that money to your budget. So it is mindset, it's training people to think that I can just accept responsibility for having lost $20 million and everything is okay. No, it's not okay.
Prof, I just want to pause there for a second. You're saying certain things which are extremely important, and I would like us to look at it in greater detail, because you're talking about the personal responsibility that people in authority should have. And you're giving good examples, like in academia, where, yes, it's a public university, but because it is funded by either the state or the national or the federal government, you are still held responsible for ensuring that either that money is utilized to the core or you raise more money from it. Correct. And how you benefit from, or you don't from either. Correct. How on earth do you instill a culture of that nature? One, let's talk about our institutions of learning in our public universities, because the level of wastages that we witness in our public universities is profound.
It is great.
How?
Mindset.
That mindset. How do we instill that mindset so that it becomes the norm?
Mindset and culture that we create. We create a culture of accountability, a culture of responsibility, such that I am the one responsible to this institution. Don't lose half of the budget that you are given.
Or don't steal it.
Don't steal it. Yeah. And then you come back and ask me now we have no money to pay our teachers.
May I give an example?
Now we cannot buy laboratory things.
Some of the countries that you give examples of, you gave the example of Singapore, and we often use that as an example in terms of development. But one of the things that they do, which very few people speak of, is the serious disciplinary action they take against government officials who don't do what they are supposed to do.
Yes, ma'am.
Inadvertently setting up a deterrent system whereby you will think 300 times before making a mistake.
Yes.
Because we've seen people whipped in the street. We've seen people jailed. We've seen former presidents go to jail because of things that they've done before.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, if we don't do, and I think that because of the things that you say, steal half the budget, it doesn't disappear. Somebody takes it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We see ghost schools getting capitation. They don't exist. We see ghost students receiving bursary. We see well-to-do students receiving bursary on the back of children who don't have anything. But you know why that can continue? Because there is no systemized disciplinary way of handling things like this. So year on year, people can get away with murder. But for me, when we talk about instilling a culture, those examples that we give, how did they instill a culture? That it becomes common knowledge and common practice that if you mess up here, my friend, you will go. Number two, you people become so aware of it that nobody's going to stand up and steal an election. Nobody's going to stand up and steal money that's supposed to go to school lunches, because they know, number one, they will be found out, and number two, something will be done. So rather than have your name tainted, the culture is we just do the right thing.
And Prof, before you answer, as you talk still about matters to do with culture, it is so sad that it's only in this country when we talk about higher education, it seems to appear as though VCs in some parts of this country will be selected by politicians. Some will be frog-marched for not belonging to those specific communities. And that we see as later what it has done to universities like Moi University. Culture. The culture needs to start from the top and from us. Prof.
Let me say this. I meet people who are called doctors.
I like that, who are called doctors.
Some are called professors. We have seen somebody calling doctor cutting a person like an animal. This person never went to medical school and leaving you there. Then there are people who are calling themselves professors. And I know these people, and I said, when in the world did you become a doctor? And who gave you professor? Because what they call honorary causa is a honorary. We gave Ngugi wa Thiong'o at KCA, okay, for the work he has done. And by the way, we were the only people that acknowledged Ngugi wa Thiong'o. Outside Africa, you receive only one. Outside Africa, you receive hundreds of acknowledged. Those people are not supposed to go around call themselves doctors because you didn't go through the process. But how did you? And
which system allows you to continue?
This system allows. Now, so the thing you are talking about, my sister, is we really need to drill our system and our culture. Because what has happened, I was in South Korea when the Minister of Transportation ferry collapsed and killed people. You know what that guy did?
He resigned.
He killed himself.
Yes.
You remember?
I remember.
He killed himself because he cannot go and face his family and face the nation and say I was responsible for this and now people are dead. Now, here we walk out and said we are doing investigation.
No, you're transferred.
A task force is set up.
Yeah. We're doing investigation. What investigation are you doing? Who is responsible? In Kindu Bay, just before Christmas, someone cut one of my wires, power wire. It happened around Christmas. They come and cut, you pay them, then they come.
Same people put it
Same people come and put it. And I said, I will not pay a penny because I never done that and I will never do that. I want these people accountable. So I'm now back at the headquarters. I'm back with the minister. And I said, now you tell me what happened, because I'm paying my bills every month. So we need to make a culture of accountability and payment. Payment. If you do that kind of thing, payment, that you will remember the rest of your life. That's what need to happen. Now, then, counties, just give you an idea, are permitted to offer bursaries for primary education, village polytechnic, homecraft, culture facilities, and all that. So the balance between the national government and the counties and the people need to be balanced. And I tell you, we are going to reach a point, and we're not there yet, but we are going to reach a point where primary school and secondary school will be the responsibility of local government. And the national government will then take on higher education. So how are we equipped and responsible? And being the responsibility of local government means churches are involved, means parents are involved, means there are other volunteers who are doing, instead of having paid teachers, there are people who are going in and teaching for free. It is happening in the countries I'm talking about. Then, tertiary education that we have has to go to be one of the best in the world. You know, the British left a system here where Makerere was responsible for medicine. Kenya was responsible for engineering. And Tanzania
Dar es Salaam
was responsible for what?
Law.
You got it. Now you find one university to another. It's copycat of each other. They teach the same thing. They teach everything. And then you ask, why are we paying you resources to teach the same thing that the other person was, the other institution is teaching? So I made KCA a management university. Okay? That's the driving engine of the university. Everything else supported. So when you want to go to the top management university, you go. What is Harvard known for? Okay? It's business and law. But it has all other things. And therefore, we need to put resources where we are going to get the best return for our investment. And we need to tell the university, you create that program, go and find a way to pay it.
I want you to go over that again. A university needs, it's like they have a calling card. It is known. When you go to the university, this is what it is that they are best recognized for, or these disciplines.
Yes.
They have all the others that you may want.
Yeah.
But if you want to be the top in this field, this is the university you go to.
You know, when you drive a car, you do drive a car. A car will not drive without engine. You see?
Yes.
You have all these things, it will look nice and everything, but they won't move without engine. What is the engine? That is the question that I ask. When you ask about Harvard, when you ask about Yale, when you ask about Oxford, when you ask about Cambridge, the top university, and University of Cape Town, the top in Africa, that's the answer you get. Straight answer. And we cannot afford to have what is going on in our system that bring University of Nairobi down from where it is. We need to have international acclaim, accreditation, and we need to have an outcome that say, yes, this guy is aeronautic engineer, and this guy is heart transplant. They're discovering a new way of doing things, and we are going to benefit out of solar system much better out of this team that is working for us. And therefore, this cannot happen unless we have a mindset and a commitment to change it. Okay, Ngugi wa Thiong'o wrote a novel at Makerere University when he was undergraduate. Today, you cannot find one student who will write one novel in those schools. Why? Are we going somewhere, or is the system has failed? And so the condition today requires that we have a new reawakening, both from preschool, primary, all the way to university. Now, countries are want to talk about something else. Countries are setting up what you call two empirical ideas for universities and for school. One idea is an obligation that we must teach all children. Okay? And that is a fundamental human right. It's based on 1948 UN Declaration. So that most what you call developed countries have done that. Now, to establish the sustaining world-class university for education, we need to say 1, 2, 3 university is going to be our top tiers university. And we are going to invest our money in them. And the rest we are saying, yes, you can be a teaching institution, you can do all other things, but the government will not invest as much money as you're doing. You need to find those money somewhere else.
And you need to find those solutions.
You need to find...
Our time comes to an end, Prof, and I just think we're just getting into some of these things which are very important, but really I have to, cut us off at that point because, getting to the top of the hour. But they're very vital, fundamental conversations that we continue to have and need to have. And we want to thank you for being here with us this morning. Professor Noah O. Midamba is a Senior Associate of the Global Center for Policy and Strategy, sharing those insights with us this morning. The conversations definitely must continue. Asante Sana. Good morning. It's 9 a.m.
I was just guessing.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. President William Ruto's 3 new appointees to the cabinet are set to be sworn in today. The 3, William Kabogo, Mutahi Kagwe and Lee Kinyanjui, were tapped by Ruto to serve as cabinet secretaries for information, communication and the digital economy, agriculture and livestock development, as well as investments, trade and industry respectively. They'll take their oaths of office at State House, Nairobi from 10 a.m. This follows the National Assembly's approval of their appointments after vetting and recommendation by the Appointments Committee chaired by Speaker Moses Wetangula.
And pursuant to the provisions of Article 152(2) of the Constitution and Section 3 and 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act, Cap 7F, this House approves the appointment of the following persons as Cabinet Secretaries. 1. The Honorable Mutahi Kagwe, EGH, in the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development. 2. The Honorable William Kavogo, Information, Communication and Digital Economy. 3. The Honorable Lee Kinyanjui, in the Ministry of Investments, Trade and Industry.
And the Council of Governors has established a team to settle clinical officers' demands ahead of the looming nationwide strike. Some of the members in the team include Roslyn Omolo from Homa Bay, Jacqueline Osoro, Bilo Hassan, Kimani Rusia, Farida Abdallah, Alex Nduko and Tom Nyakaba. This event comes at a time when nurses in some counties are on strike have been on strike for 1 week now, demanding for the 2019 CBA to be signed. More females are affected by mental health illnesses as compared to males. Clinical psychologist Marine Farouk says a high number of young adults are also affected by mental health illnesses, and this can be dealt with by catching the trigger early.
The mental, severe or any mental illnesses is actually the bracket for the highest number of cases is young adults, 18 to 25. Now, when we come to the adolescents are actually 45.9% at getting these mental illnesses. And you see the chunk of mental illnesses, if we're to sort of say, okay, fine, which age group? It's the young adults. So you see, if we catch these young adults, that's why when they said that we need to do mental health boys versus girls, children, if we catch these children early enough, before they're young adults, we're really nipping it in the bud.
She further explains some of the mental illnesses that symptoms that are commonly presented in boys and girls.
Academics, whether it's maybe if they're teaching, if they're writing, if they're doctors, a decline in their performance is rule of thumb. And the other one is a decline in their daily functioning. If we have someone who wakes up at this time, eats at this time, has a daily routine, and we're seeing a drastic change, you know, this guy has just been sleeping in. Have you showered? I mean, what's happening? Did you eat? So that's the rule of thumb for children, for young adults, and even for adults. So for us, those are the two things, if you're not a specialist yet.
The government is set to create hubs for reporting online fraudulent activities and cyber threats. Interior Principal Secretary Raymond Omolo said the main core of the hub will focus on protecting users from cyber threats, ensuring responsible access to digital content. Speaking after engaging telecommunication operators and social media organizations, Omolo noted there was a growing need to effectively navigate the misuse and abuse of social media to address the irresponsible use of media disregarding the limits of free speech. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Umbaga.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, so what are we looking at with traffic at this time? The Thika Superhighway coming in through towards the Pangani underpass. Some traffic there. Actually, we're looking at some traffic coming in towards Garden City, and that's also quite something as well. Into the CBD, not too bad. Coming off of Waiyaki Way, a little bit of traffic. And Uhuru Highway is going to get you through to the CBD from Mombasa Road without a problem at all. A little bit of traffic coming off of Ngong Road, but I think we're fine there. And Landis Road, then heading towards Kamkunji at the roundabout. Some traffic here as well, but not doing too badly for a Friday, eh? Keeping an eye on all of this. Let's talk on Spice FM KE on X. Hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, folks, 9:07, 7 minutes after 9 o'clock this morning, getting into the final hour of Kenya's biggest conversation for this week and indeed this morning. So even as we do, want to remind you of certain things that happen where there might be a gap and skills we might look for, but we can't find them.
Yeah, and that is KCB through its foundation, KCB to Jejuri program, is coming on forth in giving solutions to the unemployment crisis that we continue to experience, not only just as a country, but the continent. And KCB says, okay, fine, 18 to 34 years of age, you've dropped out of school or actually have skill but need upskilling. We will give you that skill, take you through classes that must attend. You get in, then you get your certification through NITA, and helping you be able to get these documents that will help you go get employment, get into entrepreneurship, which is big, and the foundation is actually pushing. And since its inception, we're not just talking about matters to do with an exercise that does not have anything to show. We have numbers, and when we talk about numbers, over 150,000 jobs have been created. Trained 35,195, incubated 10,954, disbursed 267 million shillings to support the enterprises from these young people, as well as issued 2,225 startup toolkits. And we talk about startup toolkits, it's about pairing with the best of the best that exist. We talk about them pairing with Bosch, and City would tell you that Bosch have some of the best equipment there is. City.
My friend, equipment is everything. In this modern day and age where we are in the communication so-called age, there's something called software, there's something called hardware. Okay? We're talking software is school, you've learned, you've acquired skill. Hardware. Now, that's where Bosch comes in. Okay? Equipment, tools. The things that give you what we say the wherewithal, the means by which you can actually now ply your trade effectively. Not talk about it, ply it. Now, that is something many people don't have. You want to be a mechanic, an automotive mechanic, but you don't have the tools. Okay. You don't have number 12, number 13. I'm referring to spanners here.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. You don't have a box spanner. And without a box spanner, you will not know what it is that you need to do with, yes, you are whatever it is that box spanners are used for. Now, when KCB comes into this particular conversation, that gap that I've just spoken of, that is what they do. They fill that gap.
Yes.
So you are now able to do that which you knew what to do but didn't have the means to. They give you the means.
Yes, and as well, they have actually trained 6,535 businesses on financial planning. Because remember, KCB is a financial institution, so training you on matters to do with financial planning is no-brainer.
No, that's what they do. Their business is money.
Money.
Yes.
Yes.
So they get it.
Yeah.
Oh, they come into the game, haven't gotten it already.
So where do you find more information about
kcb.com/foundation.
All right. Our guest for the hour is the Senator of Kisii County, Senator Onyonka, and he'll be with us in a few minutes. You know, something about Mombasa Road makes people, take a wrong turn, go under instead of going over. But,
In fact, it is the right thing to do. Because you're driving on a road and you then come across
a contraption.
Yes, and then you come across a road that used to exist and then it doesn't quite exist. Then you come across a road and they're all, what do you call those big tins which they put on the side of the road?
The
Let's just call them barriers.
The barriers.
Oh, the barriers.
The tins, yes, they're tins, but they're very big. Barrels, that's the thing I was looking for.
Yeah.
Now, you will get confused, okay? So it's perfectly understandable.
Okay. In the meantime, let me tell you where to go. Let me tell you where to go on the 18th of January, which is tomorrow, at the Gallant Mall in Parklands. Cradle has convened its first ever study abroad annual conference. It takes place tomorrow at the Gallant Mall in Parklands. What will you get information on? Everything having to do with your university education. So Cradle pairs technology with information about what you would be looking for when it comes to university education. What is it? Are you looking for a student visa? Are you looking for the best destination for your career? Which career path will you choose? Then which degree will you actually study? They put all of this together and are able to then put you and streamline you on a path which you want to go with. The conference at least will be for longer in terms of hours, and you can find all the vital information that you're looking for all in one room with all of these experts and these counselors in one place at one time. Take advantage of it. You need to be invited to go. You register on www.cradel.com, that is CRAYDEL.com, or you can call 0799 000 444. Register. You can still register today up until a certain time and then attend it tomorrow. Folks, you can also attend the conference in Eldoret on the 27th of January. And at the Okoh Hotel, the very same things you will have access to. And there will also be something at both conferences that you can take advantage of. And that's the Battle of the University Destinations. And you will then be able to see who comes at top and what you want to do to be able to attend. Remember, it's www.cradel.com 0799 000 444. All right. As we're waiting for Senator Onyonka to join us, there is a notion, and probably let's divest ourselves of it, that, with all the things that happen in the nation, the tendency is to become very negative about them, and that you continuously point out these negative things, and then you just have a negative seeking society that let me paint the picture for you. And
all right, paint the picture, Picasso.
All right, thanks very much. My brush is out.
Yes.
And you say, okay, well, why is it that all the headlines that we see are negative? Why do we pick out on those headlines and want to open them up a little bit more? Why do we always find something there? Can't we look for the positive and talk about those things? Because after all, development begets development, does it not? You talk about the good things, and that will, give folks who are doing these good things to continue doing better things. Is it wrong to point out the things that are going wrong?
No.
Yes.
In the Star, State House ghost workers exposed.
Bam.
Just leave it there.
Okay.
In the Business Daily, top counties in borrowed shared funds use revealed. In the Standard, MPs live up to their laundry tag yet again. JSC to consider plea to kick out Kome, 8 judges. Daily Nation, judiciary under siege. Alarm as hundreds fail to report versities over funding crisis. Bugay moved in police shake up. The Nairobian, Narcos Queen Joyce Akinyi, lovers and drug empire. Mukurino Karangu displays intimacy to wife and special friend. Okay, now, of all those things I have read, the negative one is which one? Which of these headlines is negative?
Which is not.
What? Top counties in borrowed shared funds use revealed.
It's a good thing.
These are people who understand, have a sense of community. I have a phone you don't have. Doesn't mean you can't communicate.
Yeah.
By all means, come and use my phone.
Okay.
In fact, even let M-Pesa come through my phone.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay? State House, ghost workers exposed.
It's a good thing.
Well, yeah, you see, the thing is, anything that talks to you about life after death, it's good. Ghost workers.
I got it.
You got it. But then, but the other stories, like in Siasa, the headline is President Ruto's real enemies now firmly with him in government. There's no such thing as enemies. How can this be bad news? This just tells you how we in the media sometimes misrepresent things. Enemies. The other day here, it was Kenya Kwanza. Look at the formation now. Where are the enemies?
It's broad-based.
It's broad-based.
People who are your enemies don't want to see you, talk to you. They don't even want to hear your name.
Yes.
These ones you are mentioned. You just stop short of calling the president or giving him an ecclesiastical name. Yes, Your Excellency. Okay, look at the Daily Nation. Judiciary under siege. Judiciary has been under siege for a very long time.
Yeah.
Okay, they are blamed for this, they are blamed for that, they are blamed for that. And the freedoms we have, the people who've gone to JSC and said, kick them out. Fine, we will see how that thing works out, won't we? Okay? What's negative about it?
I think, Siri, as well as, even if it's, you call that negativity or what you would want to say, I mean, as well as the Constitution gives you the right to just speak. So whether it's negative or positive, just speak.
Speak.
I think
not go around insulting people.
I get it, but I think the greater call here, and this is where this debate comes about. The greater call is that can you not find anything that is good that's going on?
Let me read. Let me read something that is good. MPs live up to their laundry tag yet again. This is positive.
Yeah,
confirming something that we know.
There's consistency.
Yes. How is it negative?
Yeah.
These are the same people who just in the time for not this even parliament, the other parliament as well. These guys have just followed the same trend. My friend, this borrowing limit, they just keep upping it and upping it and upping it and upping it. What does it mean?
We get
every
more
time
money.
They up it, we have more to pay.
Yeah.
And then we have less to spend in the country.
Yes.
They've done it yet again. Not that the people whom they have vetted have anything wrong with them. No, they are Kenyans. Okay? That's the qualification.
Yes.
And they're politicians. Another qualification. They've been in public service before. Another qualification. These guys are okay. Okay? Unless someone's going to tell me that they have better candidates. Okay? So where's the negativity?
Okay.
You don't do.
Yes.
I know I'm being facetious. It's not I don't know.
But I saw you a while ago.
Yeah, but you do know the point I'm trying to make.
I do.
Yeah.
Okay? When things are said that are unpleasant, they're not necessarily negative.
Negative, yeah.
For instance, yesterday we had a guest called Professor Kagwanja, and he talked about Raila Odinga's age, and he talked about AUC, and how it is that someone of his age should be trapezing across the continent. That was misinformation, really, because one, the secretariat is what is the AUC.
Yes.
The chair has a deputy. It is a deputy who is in charge of day-to-day running, and these things called running around. The deputy.
Yes.
Then you have a commission. The commission are like ministers who have dockets like agriculture, infrastructure, blah, blah, blah. That's what they have. So essentially, he doesn't have to do any running around.
Yeah.
The stature that he has enables him to be able to open doors, because if you're talking about presidents within the AU, he's a man who is their peer, and in some cases, he's above being their peer.
Yeah.
He's a voice you can listen to in that position. Now, this is my view on the subject. But when it is presented and it is said, because of his age, and you ask the question. So you question, where does age come in here?
Yes.
Does he have other qualities apart from his age?
That need to be considered.
Yes, and do they supersede the age? And the answer is yes. One could argue age even augments them.
Yeah. And one could argue that, if we talk about, sure, if they're unpleasant to hear, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are negative.
No,
because
not necessarily.
If you're going to throw a fishing line into a pond or a river, and you would and you catch chickens, then I would be surprised.
Yes.
But if you throw a fishing line into a pond and you catch fish, then I would say, okay, well, that's what you get because that is what is there.
When you catch fish, that's why it's called fishing.
Exactly. That is what it is there.
Yes. We don't call it hunting. We call it fishing.
If you open your eyes and you look around the country and the things that are happening are hitting you in the face, both bus.
And that's what you're talking about.
That is what is happening. That is what you see. It's not conjuring. It's not making up. This is what you see. I think what the onus lies there, the onus that lies then upon us, is to be able to say, look, if this is going wrong, what are we aware? Number one, that there's a problem. Who is in a position to do something about it? How can it be fixed? Yeah. And that's why you have this constant conversation.
And I think as well as what people are calling negative. As it is, like you could just read that story on State House.
You talk about State House ghost workers exposed.
Is that a negative story? How I'd look at it just from that alone is the fact that now the public, we are aware that there are ghosts.
Workers everywhere, including what you're saying is including State House. That's what they're saying.
And that's a good thing because now we can actually even call out the government and call out those who live in State House and ask them, how is it that you have ghost workers in State House? Fix that problem. Essentially what the headline is telling you, fix that problem. It is a positive headline.
We like to employ our relatives and friends and their friends and their relatives. We understand that helping people is finding them employment.
Yes.
Okay? And it is the mindset that we have. If I know somebody in a position of authority, they must help me give a relative of mine a job. When jobs come up and we hear they're recruiting policemen, I find somebody who I think wants to be a policeman or wants to be an AP or whatever it is. It's how we think.
Yeah.
So when you find it's a growth industry where people keep collecting bribes to offer jobs which they are not in a position to offer or to give, and then people complain, why are you complaining?
Yeah.
You are a part and parcel of the group that's encouraging that trade.
True.
Stop complaining. If there was no one offering bribes for people to be employed, what do you think would happen?
People would be employed for merit.
Yeah, exactly.
Merit. Yeah. Yes.
At least we'd see a higher number of people being employed for merit. But so long as it is accepted that to get a job, you must give people money, then what do you think you're doing? And you are part of and parcel of that group of people who give. Don't complain.
Don't complain.
No, don't. You have abrogated the right to complain when that is what you've done.
And there is also, in relation to what it is you're talking about, City, we have an individual in Nairobi County Assembly, Mosiria, who's in charge of environment. He's going around these communities, residential areas, and making sure that clubs are not there and whatnot. And when you go to his social media where he posts on the work that he does, you see people complain, toka hapo, you see kazi, watu wanafanya kazi, go sleep in your house and whatnot, forgetting that there is actually even a planning code on where you can have a club and whatnot. And when this man is doing something that you would see to be positive, we go to say what you're doing is negative for us.
That is what freedom does.
Yes.
You get to see a diversity of how that is actually manifested.
Yes.
And again, that's where we judge your capacity for tolerance, because some of it may disagree with the way you think completely.
Exactly.
Okay? But this is someone who's probably protecting their turf. And they feel, why is this person interfering with our feel-good? When you don't have freedom, you do. But when that freedom infringes on other people's freedom, then you have a problem with that freedom.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely.
And that's why you have watchdogs. You have watch people, rather. People who want to ensure that you don't do that very thing.
They call them cartels?
Well, for that reason, that is why, for instance, if you feel like taking a pee, you can't stand on the side of the road and take a pee.
Well, you can, but you shouldn't.
You can, but you shouldn't.
No, you are not supposed to.
Exactly. That's the thing. You can in terms of, I say can in terms of ability.
Or meaning it's something that
you have the capacity.
You have the wherewithal to.
You can.
Yes,
but you should
not.
How very apt. Thank you.
You see, and I think for me this is the thing that I think that sometimes folks are blamed for pointing out what would be negative, because truly we are very uncomfortable with being called out. We are very uncomfortable with saying that there is a problem here, it ought to be fixed. We are very uncomfortable with saying, you've been doing this thing for the longest time and it is wrong. But we don't know how to call each other out. Even if we do, we are also uncomfortable with saying that this is wrong. Can you please pull back from it, or can you stop it? Or here are the consequences should you continue to do that.
But when we ourselves participate in wrong and we expect support with our wrong, if not a whole troop of cheerleaders, then we will not call it out, because we also want someone to side with us when we know we've done wrong. Okay? So it is the culture that we have over time manufactured, we've created, and now it's become the norm.
So that is why when there is an accident and there's somebody who is responsible for the transport system and they resign, as happened in Greece, Italy, or when somebody takes his own life because he cannot bear with living knowing that people died because something that was under his control and under his authority did not work. When we hear such stories, we are met with chagrin and we say, how? Somebody resigned? Were you joking? Even on a lesser issue, somebody resigned from her office because a teapot, it's not a lie, teapot was missing from the inventory of 1, 2, 3, and then she said, you know what, under my watch something went missing.
There's an uncle of mine who lives in Liverpool. He was telling me the other day that power did not go off. There was no blackout. It just stukad. It just mad kidogo. That individual resigned because the residents of Liverpool asked him, how could this happen under your watch? In Kenya, power goes for 3 days. Whole night, airport, no power, but still, people are in offices.
Well, but this is the thing, and when we talk about accountability and we talk about then holding people responsible for the positions that they do have, we need to get comfortable with saying, you are in a position to do 1, 2, 3. You should actually. I am in a position to make sure 1, 2, 3 happen. If I don't, what am I doing there? Where did you think you're going? To the beach? Where do you think you are going?
Let me just read this story for you. This is by BBC, a gentleman by the name of Joel Quinto. Yoon Suk Yeol has become South Korea's first sitting president to be arrested after investigators scaled barricades and cut through barbed wire to take him into custody.
Yes.
Why?
Introduced martial law to the citizens.
Yes, exactly, and it plunged the country into turmoil.
And don't forget, another Park in Hay was actually taken to jail for bribery.
No, South Korea are famous for jailing former presidents. It's something they do the way we take a trip to our ancestral homes. Yes.
With regularity.
Yes.
Well, guess what? The senator for Kisii County is here. He is late. And if I'm just going to follow what I've just said, we will not be uncomfortable calling folks out for, if we say 9 o'clock and then they come at 9:27. Senator, good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. If the Standard Center was situated in the CBD, I would have been on time. I apologize for having been late, and the design of the expressway is in such a way that once you miss a turn, you have to go to the airport, make a U-turn, and make another U-turn at Capital Center. By the time I was turning back, I'm just tired.
We made the excuse for you before you got here. Do not worry. Do just giving you a hard time because that is what we must do. Yes,
far be it from me not to.
It is duty. Yes, but we know what this road is like. We work on this road every day. One moment you have an entrance, you come back the following day there's a hole.
Yeah. So I understood why UDA guys behave the way they do. That's why they buy helicopters. It's easy. I mean, it's logical, it's commonsensical. Under these circumstances, you must buy a helicopter.
Well, there we go. How's that for, saying Happy New Year?
Good morning, everybody. How are you all? I am so happy to see you. I watched your show yesterday with Barack Muluka. Jesus Christ, I nearly shed tears. Yeah, it was deep. I really, really loved what you are doing. The conversation was awesome. I loved it.
Asante Sana.
Yes.
Well, we're glad that you're here. You know, all things notwithstanding.
Yes.
So, I mean, we're going to go to a break, interestingly, in just a short while. But, let's just get off into this. Yes. There's been a lot, isn't it, Senator? And even when we start to ask the questions about where we are, where Kenya is as a country, and we've been having, bits and bobs of these conversations and saying, okay, Kenyan citizens, those who are not in positions of leadership, but those who have a responsibility to hold leaders accountable, what's their role and how can we play, a role in this and say, come on, guys, we got to do better. Because aside from all the academic talk, it's the nitty gritty. We've got to do better. How do we do that?
The beauty of all this, or rather, should I say, not even the beauty, the most amazing thing is that I suffer from being a depository of historical data and information. And the reality I see, every single thing seems to be repeating itself. And it confirms what I've previously said before, that the reason why I think our country is broken down deliberately is so that it then does not move. I mean, if you see the mistakes we make, they're the same. If you look at the issues, if you look at the way we are handling our governance, if you look at the constitutional mismanagement we are having, look at IBC not being set, the language you hear politicians are throwing around, the behavior, the scandals that you see coming out on a daily basis, weekly basis, I am like stuck. I'm stuck on an old record. Yeah, it sounds the same, looks the same, it's going to have the same results. That is the sad thing of it. The beauty of it is that Kenyans are, again, surprising me amazingly because they are talking about things, they are raising issues. I think Kenyans are refusing to accept the mediocrity and the silliness of our behavior, the attitude we have, where we behave incredulously like people who didn't even go to school. I mean, we all behave like fools,
Wouldn't you say going to school is sometimes overrated?
Yes. Because surely, if this is what we get as a result.
Exactly.
All right. I mean, look, so I almost hear you saying that, then Kenyans are doing the right thing. The citizenry are going in the right direction when you say, call out people, say these things when we see this behavior of an incredulous nature. Right? Let's take a break and then we'll come back and we continue with this. The good senator is here. Will allow me to catch a breath, after running to the airport and back. And then we'll come back.
I'm going to buy a helicopter after I steal public money.
Where the money comes from.
I'll steal your money.
The good senator for Kisi County, Richard Onyonka, is here with us this morning. Those conversations continue right after this break.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
And the weather this morning in Nairobi, even as the Senate is receiving salams, highs of 23 degrees and lows of 14 degrees, and highs of 30 degrees and lows of 14 degrees in Kakamega County. And in Mombasa, highs of 32 degrees and lows of 25 degrees. And in the lakeside city of Kisumu, highs of 32 degrees and lows of 17 degrees. And in Kenya's fourth city, Nakuru city, highs of 27 degrees and lows of 11 degrees. But in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, highs of 22 degrees and lows of 7 degrees. Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, highs of 31 degrees and lows of 27 degrees. But in China, it is super cold, highs of 4 degrees and lows of -4 degrees. So is the case in London, highs of 10 degrees and lows of 7 degrees. That is the weather. These are good morning.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life.
All right, a quick look at what the roads look like as we get towards the end of traffic hour, and just a smidgen of that left on the thicker superhighway as you come through towards Survey. Not too painful, you'll get through it in no time. Outer Ring has behaved very well this morning, or rather you on Outer Ring have behaved very well this morning. Also, a little bit of traffic now starting to build right around Landis heading towards Kamkunji. Ngong Road is looking good as it is now coming off of Waiyaki Way, and Langata Road, I don't think we'll see a spot of trouble here at all. Keeping an eye on all of this, we shall talk. Spice FM KE on X.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 10 o'clock, and we continue with our conversation this morning. Senator Richard Onyonka is here with us this morning, and we must say that the last couple of months we have heard you sorry,
proverb.
We didn't talk about the proverb.
No, we didn't.
It's not my fault. You see, these trips to the airport and coming back
it can be quite confusing.
It can be quite confusing.
They're actually quite proverbial.
So how about we do that? This is the nice thing about when you speak, because you can stop speaking and then do something else, isn't it?
Yes,
so,
yes.
CT, you know where he normally goes every week. So let him share the proverb, and then you can tell us what you think about that, no?
Yes,
all right.
We are in the Republic of Uganda. According to Wikipedia, it's a unitary presidential republic under a dominant party. The other things they said, but I didn't agree with them, so I'm not mentioning those. But there's something very unique about Uganda. The unique thing is there's very many unique things. Okay? One of them is the structure of the leadership. Okay, you have a president. They have two ladies. The VP is a lady, the PM is a lady. Now, the PM is the first female PM in Uganda. But what I found interesting was she has been a very dominant member of NRM. NRM. She was a Minister of Education. She has a background. This is what she's done. And the VP is also the first female VP. She's the 9th VP that Uganda has had. How many countries in the world do we have where you have a structure of leadership where you have two women in that very prominent position? Most countries have one, and they really shout about it. Well, we are one of those countries that shout about it. We don't have a DP, but we have JC, we have AG. We're not doing too badly. CJ. You want to say CJ twice. The proverb.
Yep.
Even the king needs to be taught.
Senator?
Even the king needs to be
taught.
Yes.
Yes, in reality, if you look at leadership under the African context, and that you go back to the historical perspective of it, we had our own ways on how even the person who was at the highest office, whether he was the president, whether in this case now we have presidents, or even those days we had our own leaders who were kings and chiefs, there was a way on how society had programmed itself. And this king, once he made his errors, he had people who would actually advise him and warn him and tell him the country was either going the wrong direction. And if he was doing well, they will at the same time, they would tell him that.
Right.
So there is actually no contradiction in what I see happening even right now. The reality is that some of us have decided to just speak to power, and there's nothing that is going to stop us. I mean, like yesterday, I had somebody stop me somewhere, and I knew him, and he's a big businessman, and he was telling me, why is it that you're always telling the president this and that? Why don't you come and work with him? I said, I'd love to work with him. Let him just come and I tell him what he's doing wrong. That's if he's listening.
Yeah.
I'd love to work with him. I have no problem with working with him, because we have issues and we have problems, and we have to be honest about it.
Indeed.
Yes.
So I mean, that proverb kind of ties in exactly with what we're talking about today.
Yes.
Because we talk about, the high level of accountability and responsibility that leaders must be held to. And I don't think there's been a time in Kenya of this magnitude where we see constant speaking, where we see constant calling out. And then one would ask, is it the right way to go about it? Is everything about the way things are currently going on the right way? We have social media now, which is a tool and a platform that has never been engaged the way in which it is being engaged today. Somebody has an issue, they put it there because it is bound to be read. Somebody will speak out and say, this cannot continue to happen. Would that be the kind of citizen governance that we're talking about that needs to happen?
My thinking is that, of course, times have changed and the reality has changed. But my reality as a politician is that the circumstances under which we've been operating have not changed. The expectation was that when President Ruto would become president and he would come up with this bottom-up thing of his, and I listened to Barack really expound and explain what they were thinking about. The general feel is that the politician or the political class is the one which has refused to acknowledge and understand the times have changed and the events have changed and the people have changed. In this case, the people are the young ones. The young ones are engaged, they're informed, they're articulate, they have zeroed in on why they think there's a problem in the country. They do not have the nitty-gritties, and that is where I think people like me, people like Joe Wanjigi, people like Barack Muluka, who are willing, Jimmy Wanjigi, sorry. Yeah, because Joe is different. Joe was his father, I think. Jimmy Wanjigi have been talking about these things, is that some of us have realized that the problem is not what we even just identify, that the problem are indeed structural. The very problems that you see are existential to the very existence of our country. I hear people talking about how these young men were trying to overthrow the government, and in fact, if you govern well, nobody would want to overthrow you. It's a reality. It's a fact. If you manage a company well, all right, let's just use a very simple analogy.
Right.
If you took a company, it's a bank, and you made sure that that bank is running reasonably well, you find that the bank had a debt or debts. You come in with a program with the management team that you have been hired with, that you sort out what the issue of these debts is. You then come in with this bank and you find there was no meritocracy, there was no management acumen used to either appoint or select or nominate individuals who are going to run the branches that you set of this bank. If you find that the consolidated an account that runs your company, or which is this bank in this case with the central bank, has got deficits, money is being pilfered from there, and if you find your internal auditors and your controller of your bank is telling you that no, you are spending too much, you are pilfering the resources, we are losing 106 billion. Imagine a bank losing 106 billion shillings. What would the MD of such a bank do? You either fix it or you resign. That's it. I mean, I don't see why people find that what we are raising is contradictory. We have a country where resources are being stolen, where the leadership class doesn't care, where our medical services are not being provided as expected. So the health sector is in a mess. The health facilities are not having equipment, medicines, and whatever that we need. We have the education sector, which is in a mess. There's no capitation. We have a problem with the exams. We are having a problem with class 7, 8 and 9. You are talking about what else can I talk about, Ndu? The university kids are not going to university. Why? Because you pick some model of funding which is absolutely obnoxious, and the courts have ruled so, and you're doing nothing about it. And in case you decided that you're going to have an election, you do not have an IBC in case the president dies. I mean, people die, don't they?
They do.
Yeah. And sometimes the president can die. And I mean, why are we behaving as if this is a private company that is going to run by a family and nobody cares about the people who live?
And yet, Senator, we have leaders who are tasked with the responsibility of ensuring that these processes run.
Yes.
That ensuring that the livelihoods of Kenyans essentially will not be taken out of their mouth. I mean, the analogy for me, which in this case is a good one, is when the parents of the bird bring food in their mouths
Yes.
to the chicks in the nest, and the chicks essentially eat from their mouth. In this case, it's the other way.
The other way around.
Because the livelihood is basically being plucked out of the mouths of Kenyans.
Yes.
But then I have to ask that we have leadership that sits over these processes every day. Parliament sits every day.
Actually, no.
No, hold on. We have leadership that sits or supposedly sits over these processes every day, and for whom are being compensated every day. So, how can we say that there is a country in place? How can we say that?
No. Why I said no was this. Whenever we use the word leadership, what are we implying? We are implying that somebody who has either the mandate or has the ability to provide direction that is beneficial.
Absolutely.
If that direction is not being provided, how then do you claim to be a leader?
Yes.
We gave you a job. So there are these individuals whom we gave jobs of leadership. The moment you abrogate that duty, how then are you a leader? Who are you leading?
Yes.
Because the people you are leading are telling you, we don't want to go that way. So you're supposed to show direction. The direction you've taken, you've been told countless times, we do not want to go in that direction.
So, can I tell you why they don't want to go in that direction?
Please.
Because the purpose and agenda of governance in our country as we sit on it today has nothing to do with changing the status quo of our people.
And yet you've all said that it
basically
is.
what you heard Barack talk about yesterday. This is an outfit that is designed by particular individuals who have formed a cartel and part of a group of individuals whose purpose and agenda is basically to manipulate, engage, and program government to become the engine of their private sector arrangements. These private sector arrangements being business transactions, pilfering money from government, organizing and planning on how services are not provided, but the money is always being taken out. It has been said severally by the Controller of Budget. It has been said by the Auditor General. The agenda is, you can see, we are already moving to a 4.6 trillion shilling budget. The question you ask is, the 3.3 trillion that we got last year, what has it done? You see, I mean, it is a system that is so broken. And that is why I've been telling my friends, and I mentioned this to my leader here and my young brother and Yundu. I feel the time has reached for Kenya to hold a Constituent Assembly discussing on the economic misgovernance and mismanagement of our state, and we will present evidence to show how the system has meticulously and systematically been broken to make sure that all these things fall into place, so that when individuals are beginning to share the loot, you can't stop them. That is why it is easy for them to continue borrowing. That is why it is easy for them to continue sharing whatever that is coming out from these deals. I mean, the airport deal of Adani is not an accident.
Yes.
What was going to happen to geothermal of Kenya, what is supposed to be happening to Kenya Power, these are not government programs which are moving efficiently and successfully to make sure that Kenyans get services. No, all these institutions are being broken down deliberately so that a few individuals can then begin to pocket, can then begin to take away resources which are supposed to be utilized to hold the Kenyans from not collapsing. All right.
And yet, when these things are being called out, because the information does become public at some point or another, when these things are being called out, or where the clamor for a kind of disassociation with this negative behavior is called for, these individuals are they're targeted.
No, who told you that it's negative behavior? The behavior you see these individuals having. I mean, the other day, you saw that there were people who went to some place where there was a marathon, and there were 19 helicopters.
Yes, there were.
And they were giving 15,000 to the people who ran and won.
Cheptais marathon?
Yes. It tells you the mindset. There is a mindset that certain individuals have, that all they ever came to do in government has nothing to do with public service.
And as we speak, let's go back to the preamble of the Constitution. We the people give power to this Constitution. We the people give the power to the governments that will form. And it is a situation that to see we the people have come up and say enough is enough. We need to be listened and things need to be done right. But even while doing that, abductions are happening. People turn up dead. In such a situation, and the responsibility of the government that be listening to we the people who give the Constitution and you the power and listening to its people, why are we not having a listening leadership?
The leadership believes that, number one, Kenyans have a short memory. Particularly Kenyan voters, or rather the Kenyan poor.
Is that what they tell themselves?
That's what they believe. They believe that you actually go and hold elections, the purpose of which it gives you an advantage. You come to the Senate or the National Assembly to negotiate what you can carry with you out of that 5 years that you get. Where CDF, Kera money, NG and National Government Women Fund, these are all kitties which are designed and engaged purposefully to make sure that the leadership has a soft landing space. They're able to have cash. Now the money has increased. I can tell you the truth because members of parliament are getting 250 million each for their education, blah, blah, bursaries. Go and see where the Auditor General has done in terms of how bursary money is being stolen. And in fact, I was completely disagreeing with my party when they are saying that governors and county governments are being fought by the control of budget. Why? Because the money that they are getting as bursary is helping the poor. We have been saying you can't take 109 billion shillings, which is money being shared between members of parliament, the executive and the presidency and his deputy, members of the, I was shocked the other day that members of the judiciary actually get some of that money for those bursaries.
To do what?
To give their relatives and friends. It's shared amongst all government departments. It is a kitty that softens our behavior. When you have been elected to the National Assembly, there is money that you get that quietens you.
So this is a question that we often ask in this room, Senator, because we say that before an election, you find a spirited man or woman, and it would appear as though their objective is to ensure that systems work properly, is to ensure that there's development, is to ensure that there's honor. You look at this individual and you're like, yeah, this is the panacea. This is what we actually need. And so we often wonder what happens when they actually get in.
When you get in, you find the loot.
Okay.
You find the loot. You are shown how the loot is shared.
Have you been?
There are members of parliament who will get 500 million shillings to Maram roads in their constituencies.
Yes.
There are others who have been given. I know of a member of parliament in the last budget. I don't know, they have deleted it because we started interrogating it, where somebody has been given, because he is in the budget committee, 1.5 billion shillings. To do roads in his one constituency.
When others are getting 100.
When others are getting 50 million. When somebody, the system, and the team here, what I'm actually saying is that the system right now is designed that there's no member of parliament who can say "Mwe," because if he says "Mwe," if the party leader realizes you are saying "Mwe" on some things which you are not supposed to say "Mwe," then you are supposed to be "Mwed," and you go "Mwe, Mwe, Mwe." So you go quiet, and you don't. How can we be a country that is running its budget and we don't have rules and regulations what you do with that budget?
But we do have rules and regulations.
The PFM Act has been violated.
Yes,
completely.
It is continuous.
We have governors who are spending 800, 900 million shillings fueling in a year county government vehicles. Can you imagine how much fuel that would run? All right. You have county governments where governors are paid 920 million shillings to a law firm. Which case is that a law firm goes to court? And how many years were those? And by the way, how much was the value of the laws for you to be paid 900 million? And yet we have EACC. which is a constitutional body, and yet we have DCI, and guys are talking about, oh, you can't, what are you, you've not reported this to us. If you see how many letters some of us have written to these bodies, the system is deliberately and completely broken down.
So, when we are aware of some of these things, I mean, look, when you're on the inside and seeing some of these things, we don't, those are one, would hear or you'd smell, there's no smoke without fire. There must be something going on. And Kenyans open their mouths to complain about, the constant pilferage that's happening, the corruption which is through the roof, the lack of the desire to actually implement development agenda in the country. You have the people sick, you have the people poor, you have the people uneducated, you have infrastructure that does not allow a conducive environment for development to thrive. All of these things happen concurrently. And there's a leadership in... Okay, City doesn't like that word. There are people in place who've been given the mandate to ensure that these processes actually happen. Abi? How then? How do you wake up and go to Parliament? How do you sit there? You see, does it not create something in you?
The explanation you're giving, it is your description as you as Ndu. What you think. When you went to school, that's what they told you. That you come, you get responsibility. You go to school because you come, you're supposed to come and serve humanity, that you observe the law, that a country must be governed by rules of laws, and you have a constitution, and you agree to have order.
Okay, school and even conscience maybe would apply, right?
But who told you that that's what they think about? My reality is that is not what they think about. It is your imagination that is what they think about. I mean, why do you think that... the truth is, when do we ever sit to interrogate how we spend state resources and fairly and reasonably? What is there is that we have a system right now that is capitalistic based, that is designed in such a manner that the individuals who are in power will take it all. When you catch them trying to take it all, when they're trying to employ their relatives and their cousins and all that needs to be employed, and you start shouting, they call you, they say, come, we give you a few. When you say you are stealing state resources, stop what you're doing. When you engage and say, stop this nonsense you're doing, when you're trying to sell our airport, you're selling our technology, you are selling everything, they tell you, no, don't make too much noise. Come, we share what we are stealing.
So Onyonka was also approached and said, you know what, you're making a lot of noise about this Adani thing. You're making too much noise about how governance has gone through the roof.
I will tell you today, it is not the first time, neither is it going to be the last time. I have been informed that most people thought the reason why I was engaging so viciously and vociferously, that's the word I was looking for. Vociferously about the Adani issue when I had been given the information by the young man who gave me the information. They thought I was waiting for my take home. In fact, what vindicated me, many of them thought I had already been cashed in. In fact, they were checking to see whether I've changed my dressing and whether I bought 2 new cars.
You have a chopper.
And then what vindicated me was when the president announced and said, this deal is no longer there. They were like, you mean it was? That is how your leadership, and I'm talking about members of parliament, senators, governors, telling me, some of them said, we'll start calling you Adani because now you have got the Adani money. So you have from the county governments, what the governors do is completely understood because this is what the national government does. The governor goes and buys all the members of the county assembly. He uses the resources he has got, which is coming from the shareable revenue. He makes sure that he creates a system on how he removes that money to make sure that every MCA, at least on minimum, the MCA is on a 200,000 shillings per month take home.
Over and above
what his salary. So they are not able to impeach him. Then you go to the national government. The presidency has made sure that there are certain favors you get. There are certain things they give you. If you are an MP, there are certain amounts of money. If you make too much noise, there is money they give you to quieten down. Look at how people behave when CDF is late for 2 days. They say we'll not pass any bills.
We'll shut this thing down.
Why is it that CDF is the only one that you can shut government, nothing else? Because that's the kitty that we share. That is the kitty that when it comes, now We take our children to St. Andrew's Turi. We make sure most of them are going abroad for higher education. We make sure if we are a bit discontented and your family tells you, why do you have only a quarter an acre of land? That's how we are buying 500 acres of land, 800 acres of land.
You know, we only have a minute left, but I've got to remind you that these things that you're saying, you're saying them in broad daylight and people can hear you, right? You realize that you're saying them and that people can hear you.
What is it that I've never said?
We're talking about a reality.
What is it that I've never said before that I'm saying here that is not true? Every single thing I say. And I can come here and prove every single allegation I'm making. I can show you how members of parliament, their audited reports, where they put 70 million as bursary money, but at the end of the report, the auditor says no documents available to prove the expenditure.
Briefly, and Senate will not convict.
What does that mean?
Briefly, Senator, way forward Kenya.
I believe, and I heard Barack speak wisely and intelligibly yesterday. We must begin. We must continue civic educating people. The problem in Kenya is that many people have got short memories because we are so entangled and engaged with our poverty and we are struggling with the daily issues of life. Who really wants to care about what happens to the port of Mombasa?
Very right. It's actually called the psychology of scarcity.
It's a psychology of scarcity. So we are in a position where you pity yourself so much, and people think if you start talking about this thing. I have been accused so many times that the reason why I make these allegations or I make these statements and say the truth about what is happening to our country is because I'm so pitifully poor. That I actually must be so angry with myself that I must blame somebody, because everybody else around my clique, my class and my group is literally a you see, look at the vetting at the National Assembly.
3 billion bob.
Somebody has got 3 billion, one has got 6 billion, one has got 2.6 billion. Do you know what I would do with 2.6 billion? I wouldn't want to be a goddamn minister in any government.
Well, I hear you.
I would be an industrialist. Why would you want to come and work in government if you have 2.6 billion?
I hear you. And many would say, Senator, thank you so much for being here. And we are very glad that you have said, Mweh. Thank you very much for being part of this conversation this morning. It must continue. Folks, thanks for being here throughout the week. Good morning. It's 10 a.m.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ombaso. President William Ruto's 3 new appointments